5G, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, we're going to save that for the discussion
Let's save
later.
that for.
Because I do want to bring. I will save it because it's always hard to put the toothpaste, have it come back out and look like it's supposed to come out.
Look, I'm a professional, man. I can put all the toothpaste back in the tube you want.
Yeah, we have done that.
Yeah, you probably podcast more than we do, huh?
2 or 3 on the reg. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's hard for the guests. That's
pro.
true. Yeah,
You're pro.
Will's not a problem. We've had kind of technical errors where we have to put the toothpaste back in and have it come out, and the guests have issues with that sometimes.
It's hard. It's hard to be fresh the second time.
Yeah.
It sure is. Speaking of fresh, it looks like we are freshly online.
Hey, everybody.
We got friend of the show, Will, not this
Nerds.
Will, the other Will in the chat. There's 2 Wills now.
I'm not in the chat.
Diego, Roy.
Sorry we're late, everybody.
No,
I had to go, and, number 1 turned into number 2.
It happens. You got to get ready for
you're
a
drinking
big show, right?
Bucket of coffee there. I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
But I'm not going to talk about why I need this coffee now.
No.
Yeah,
material.
People love that mug for some reason. We always get questions every week about
I feel
what
bad.
is that mug?
I really should. I should use Steve's from Gamer Nexus. He sent us some mugs, and I should use it. But I like this because it's bigger.
It's like a quarter of a gallon of coffee, and like you can just roll right into beer with that thing, and nobody's going to know.
So the real secret why I use this mug, it's a GameStar, by the way, for people who think it's some obscure.
It's an IDG property, a hot IDG gaming property.
Our coffee now is on the other side of the building, which means it's about 100-yard jog to get coffee. And if you use a regular cup and you fill it up all the way like I am because I'm greedy, and then now you put your creamer in, you're like up near the top, and you go 100 yards. Yeah. After you spill about half of it on the carpet.
Well, mine was cold by the time I got in here.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. See, that's it. See, that's
Wait, you don't have your Zojirushi?
No. My Zojirushi. This is my cold Zojirushi. I got a cold to hot.
Got it.
Do you think they actually designed the lip to keep it from spilling? Because I just realized that these beer steins.
Yeah.
It makes sense because you're just some drunk fool.
Yeah.
And the thing keeps you from spilling it. I thought it was just like some other reason.
Have you ever seen like the servers in Germany holding like 12 of those with
they even have
around
the
the
covers,
handles?
right? They even
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh,
but you don't have to. Yeah, you can slosh like crazy with that thing. It's not going to go out. Yeah. Or if it does, it's going to go straight up and come right back into the mug.
That's the secret of this.
Yeah.
Everybody. So obviously to my left is longtime friend and coworker and awesomeness. Don't even need to introduce him. You know who he is. Will Smith. I introduced him anyway.
Thanks, Gordon.
We're going to be talking about VR stuff. Talk about PC stuff, gaming stuff, everything. We're going to try to jam in here because it's just going to go freestyle. It's going to go off the rails immediately. Will can't talk about everything. He'll let us know when he can. He'll just say, I'm not going to say anything. Or he'll just hold a hand up. Or not even say anything. Yeah, I know. Well, because he knows. He already knows about Ryzen 5.
Yeah.
He told me. He was telling me about it beforehand.
Look, the CPUs can be really big. It's huge.
Yes.
I thought you had one back there first, but it turns out that's not it.
Can we even see it in the frame here?
If I switch to this one, it's right over your left shoulder,
next to the
other one.
Broken Core i9 box and the Threadripper.
That would ginormous
be cool
Threadripper.
They actually made one.
Oh man, think how big the motherboard. It would be like a table-sized motherboard.
You know what I like though with these CPU wars? It's just like, yeah, you think that's a big CPU? Bam! And then like they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna come out with a big one too. Now it's like these things are like giant.
But then
like 6 square inches of CPU.
The one that they sell is just the cheapo, always, right?
Yeah.
Nobody buys the expensive CPU.
Yeah. Well, no, there's enough. I mean, enough to make it a small. Yeah.
Like a billion people buy the cheapo. 8 people buy the big
We're going to go off the rails immediately.
Sorry, I'm messing up your show.
I'm going to tell you this story.
We haven't even started.
So this is a story about
just preamble.
Back in the X79 days. Good Lord, maybe X79. So
I have one of those still.
That's in my machine at home. It's a Sandy Bridge E-Box.
My streaming box.
X79. I'm like, we let people like the consumer stuff, but enthusiasts, we like the big things. Give us the big chips. And this motherboard vendor, I'm talking to her. She's, we're like, Gordon, every time you ask that, I say, let me check with headquarters. How many of those are we moving? It's like, it's just like the last time you asked us. It's 0. It's 0%. No one buys these. So that's what she actually said to me. Like, stop saying you want these, whatever.
The $350 motherboard. Yeah, it's cool, right?
Enthusiasts love this stuff. We talk about the media. Our job is to hype it up. 99.9% of people buy the regular stuff.
Yeah.
But we get excited about it. She's like, it's 0 every time. She got really angry with me.
Dang.
Every time you ask.
The PR people aren't a little bit angry with you. You're kind of doing your job badly.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah.
But
It's hard
anyway.
to stay angry at Gordon, though. You know,
No.
he's a
Because I
lovable
know
guy.
it's people like he doesn't. I can't remember things. I have conversations with people like I think I've like it's the fourth time I've had the same conversation with them.
look, I was
It's like Dory.
I was responsible for telling Gordon to clean his desk for like 6 years, and
yeah.
we're still friends. So you know.
Oh.
I still haven't.
I mean,
it just
nobody
builds up.
nobody can even say that to him here.
No,
Wait,
I'm sure
yeah.
that's in the contract. If he was smart when he came over, you know,
I think they actually have carpet cleaning just to make me clean stuff up.
it's a good policy.
We had our new owners come to visit just to make me clean up. So it's like, oh, we got to make clean up. So
Well, and also, everyone had to move desks to this side, and
Just to make
like
me-
Gordon's huge cart of stuff. You know, yeah.
yeah, they did
a
that
fire
just to
sale.
make me move.
Once upon a
was
time,
fun.
we moved buildings, and Gordon's stack of crates to move from one building to the next was equal to literally everyone else on staff. So,
But it comes in handy. There's all these things I wish I still had now. We talk about now, but we haven't even started
we
yet.
haven't
folks.
even
That's how
started.
fun this is going to be.
This is
Should we
just
just
for
kick
the-
this off?
Yeah, yes. Let's kick it off.
All right.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, Will Smith.
hi.
That's all. You don't even need anything
That's all you had
else.
to do?
That's all you got to do.
That's a pretty.
It's easy. Can't mess that up.
It's like you've been doing this for years.
yeah, yeah.
That was a little too easy.
Oh, we're not supposed to talk over the credits.
Whatever.
I was forgetting. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 89. I'm your host, Gordon Maung, with very special guest, longtime friend and co-worker, and my boss, Will Smith.
I'm not your boss anymore, Gordon.
Oh, at one point.
It's been a long time, man.
It has been. And Adam Patrick Moore, we got to give him a shout out because he can just cut us off, folks,
Well,
anytime.
it is good to have you here.
good to see you again.
The last time you were here, it was episode 3 of the Full Nerd.
Oh, my
Wow.
And now we're at 89.
Wow.
And then also I listened to the episode last night, and I have some things that
you have
written
notes?
down. Yeah, notes from
boy.
from what we
Call
talked
him out.
about. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I don't know if you remember anything from that episode, but the big thing was the price of the Broadwell E.
Okay.
The 10 core Broadwell E.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I nail it?
It was no. Gordon had just mentioned it offhand, and
Yeah.
you were like, "Wait, how much is that?" And like just like freaked out. It was like $1,700 for 10 cores.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it is not $1,700. You have that wrong.
Sorry, 1723.
$1,723.
It's exactly the price I would have guessed.
We talked about that for a while. It was yeah,
I
and now look where we are now, right?
yeah, I have a
know?
Broadwell E in my machine right now. I think actually.
There you go. Did you
Yeah.
pay 1723
No, I bought
for it?
the cheap. I bought the 60, 80. I can't remember. It's the
Give
one
me
with
the
6 cores.
F-150. I need the V6.
It's an unlocked 6 cores with a lot of lanes. That's all I know.
There you go.
Oh, unlock 6. Okay. Yeah,
so it's like the
later
60,
on with
88
the-
maybe or something.
I can't remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the one that like, yeah, we're going to give you more PCIe lanes.
Yeah.
Not just randomly turn them off.
It turns out
Is that me?
No, that was me.
with VR you need the lanes because you need the USB. Like
Look, Will's already getting us back
Yeah.
on the topic
Look,
here. VR.
Yeah, speaking of
First
VR,
topic.
Gordon, how many endpoints do you think you can have on a USB chain? How many devices can you have hooked up to one USB bus?
2.
You mean before
Wait, is this
you
Price
run
is
out of
Right rules?
bandwidth?
No, it's you don't. Here's the thing: you never run out of bandwidth anymore because the bandwidth is basically infinite with USB 3. But there's still a finite number of devices you can connect to a USB chain.
Huh. I've never actually gone to the end. What's the end of at the end of the rainbow?
128. And do you know why this is an issue?
Why?
It's because with VR stuff, a lot of the devices that you plug in have like 8 or 10 endpoints per device. So, for example, Oculus
Oh.
cameras are like 4 endpoints each. The headset is 7 or 8. Let's say a Tobii eye tracker is another 7 or 8. A USB audio interface is a few. And it's really easy, it turns out, to hit 128 endpoints. And what happens when you hit 128 endpoints? Would you like
Crash?
to know?
Blue screen?
No, things just turn off without any error message.
Oh.
So like your audio interface will just stop working randomly and you're like, why is this happening? I have
Perfect.
no idea. The webcam turned on and all of a sudden my stuff just went right to hell.
So that I remember because that was a big deal with Vive and Oculus. They said, oh, you have to have an approved USB 3.
No AS Media business.
Yeah, so AS Media.
There's drivers for
Was
that
it-
now that are okay. But the
At the
Vive
time,
camera
it
still
was
doesn't
bad.
work.
Oh, really?
As far as I can tell.
But it wasn't because you were running out of devices. It was just simply
It was just because their drivers were bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Intel turns out where you want to be.
Have you tried it with the newer Intel? Because the nice thing about the new Z390 is you get native USB 3.1
So
support.
I don't have a newer Intel motherboard. I haven't.
See, Intel, he's talking to you.
Yeah, hi. Call me.
Yeah.
So I have the 6800, 6880, something like that.
Yeah. 6820 maybe.
Yeah, so it's like a X99 board, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't.
Oh,
I
okay.
have
Yeah,
bad.
that's not native.
Those X99 boards have bad USB. It turns out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Were there USB 5 gig and the PCH?
It's USB 3 on the Intel board, 3.1 on an AS Media board on my Asus board.
Yeah, you have to use the correct nomenclature with those. Like you got to say like speed and then port type and then. But
How did they mess that up? They have a whole new port.
Dude, you already missed it. USB 4 is going to fix this.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I know it's
not. They're gonna find a new innovative way to mess it up.
No, but I know everybody's angry. Not even on a topic. It's not even VR related. but USB 4, everybody gets angry at the USB IF, and I understand because they're basically the refs. They're the people sort of like controlling the madhouse. But if you're the USB IF, you can't say, "Oh, you're making a $95 track phone. You need to put, USB 4, 40 gig, Thunder, everything on the, I get it." So, but once you let somebody do USB 4 with a USB-C connector, and it doesn't support all the coolness of a brand new computer, then it's essentially broken no matter what. There's just no way to. But what do you do though? You can't make
More
people,
dongles. More dongles. It's the only solution, Gordon.
Yeah.
You need dongles for everything.
Or just stick to Type A. That's the best thing about this.
I know
this,
it's so.
this is my HP MacBook here.
How's the trackpad?
It's great. I actually don't mind this trackpad at all. I mean, it's a little big. I kind of wish. I've noticed though. And it's a good question. I wonder the centering of trackpads and laptops these days. You can see this.
Yeah.
I don't know how they base that.
I want it under my thumb, my right thumb. That's why when my finger's on the home keys, I'm my right thumb.
See,
there.
you're the person that like I've seen trackpads shifted all over the place. And I just sort of assume that there was a standard.
Yeah.
But I think they're for you, like the thumb users.
I'm a thumb user.
I'm a finger. See, index finger.
Well, I use both, but mostly I like people to hit the thumb on it while I'm typing. But I mean, look, I'm using a Razer laptop with a 1060 and an ancient, like a unibody MacBook now, or my laptops.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because I'm not buying one of those butterfly key MacBooks.
They've improved them. They're less.
It's not true.
Less.
Not true.
I've seen all the angry.
Yeah, people get angry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what grinds your gears?
You know what? I need to ask a VR thing. If we're
actually,
we're just going to sit here and complain. You know what grinds my gears?
But before we do any of that, please explain to some people who Will is. Like a little bit of history.
Come on, it's Will Smith.
And kind of what he's been doing.
He was longtime editor, Maximum PC. He was a technical editor. We both worked at Maximum PC many years ago, and I'm going to mention our former employer in a positive light, so I can do that. See, great, cool.
Boom.
Coolness. I was there. Will was there. We lived through the early days. It feels like of the golden age of PC.
We were there. Like one of the first things I wrote at Maximum PC was a review of Windows XP.
Oh,
I wrote a cover story about Windows XP. I think I did ME. We don't talk about that one. I reviewed Windows 98 at Ars Technica before I came to Maximum PC.
What about Windows 7?
Windows 7 was
did Windows 7.
I did Windows 7. It was the one that saved Windows.
Yes, it was.
I also wrote a cover story that the cover line got changed, not necessarily by my choice, into Inside Microsoft's $7 billion failure, the true story of Longhorn.
Which was
Microsoft stopped calling
Vista.
after that one.
That was Vista, right?
that was Vista, Longhorn. Yeah.
In hindsight, that was definitely... 7 fixed it all. It made it all okay.
I don't know if 8 or Vista were the big. I think Vista was probably the bigger failure, although it was necessary to get where they needed to. Yeah.
But 8, you know what's crazy? I think people hated 8. I understand it. It rhymes with hate and 8.
Yeah.
It's essentially 10. Well, for the most part, you just take the skin off. The underpinnings are mostly the same.
The reason people hated 8 was because they made you do a bunch of things that they wanted you to do to try to drive traffic to the Windows Store, which was a bad product.
Yeah, because we knew they'd eliminate the Windows Store or some feature of it or some other thing they pushed in 3 years anyway. So what's the point?
And
right?
also, if I'm using
Google,
yeah, exactly. Too soon, man. Too
Yeah.
soon. Inbox just went away. I'm still sad. I'm in mourning.
I just, you know what I was thinking this morning? Not that we're like totally off the rails here. We're like going down the hill. I want Google. I know people complain about Google just randomly nuking things that people use and they love.
Like Reader and
I
and
want
Plus.
Google in charge of the English language.
Oh.
Because there's just a lot of words that we just don't use anymore, right?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of rules we don't need and things that just make no sense. If Google were in charge of the English language, they could just simply say, no, we're not supporting that use.
I'm going to give you a
no
counterpoint.
one understands there. Everybody gets there wrong. Too many twos. Just one universal two. One there. Right.
The problem with this theory is that people. Have you ever talked to people at Google? Like, you remember when we used to joke about how people at Microsoft would have had a different language that they used to describe their products?
Yeah.
Yeah, Google's worse. So we would just all be talking about enhancing our verticality and maximizing our ARPU and doing all these.
ARPU is
revenue
not what
per
I did
user.
earlier. What is it? It's
Revenue per
revenues
user.
per user. Okay.
Yeah. ARPU isn't even what people care about. They care about average revenue per user over time. So it's ARPU-T, I think. Yeah.
Do people actually talk like that?
People talk like that, yes. In the business world.
See, I don't
I
understand
have lots
that.
of conversations about ARPU.
I'm a nerd of the people.
Yes.
I represent the, kind of like blue collar. I'm wearing a blue shirt. We're like
True.
down in the trenches supporting the PC. We're already at the end topic.
Yeah.
We've already skipped the VR
no,
stuff.
no. Let's
we need to do
circle
the
back
VR
around.
stuff.
What do you do now, Will?
So, in 2010, I left Maximum PC. I launched a little site called Tested. It's still going.
Tested.
I left
So
in
you haven't
20.
come up with a name for the podcast.
Look, that is the name, Gordon.
Oh, I thought that was
No, that's the joke. I like placeholder names.
it's just been a bunch of underlines.
Yeah, so I did that. We found people who made cool stuff. We worked with the Mythbusters, did a bunch of podcasts, did a YouTube channel, stuff like that. Then I left in 2015 to start a company called Foo because I wanted to, I looked at the videos we were making at Tested where we would go find somebody who made something really cool and I loved being able to point at the thing that they made and talk to them about it and have them explain why they made it and how they did it and that kind of thing. And you can't do that with people who make things that live inside a computer. So video games, a lot of research happens and it all is just things, visualized constructs of things that happen inside a PC. So we built Foo because we wanted a way to make the kind of content that we were making at Tested inexpensively in a VR native 3D rendered way. So no 360 cameras because they suck. 360 video is boring. Turns out nobody really likes to watch that. I was right about that 5 years ago. I don't know if we talked about that.
No, yeah, we did talk about
You mean
that.
surround
and you were
video?
right. Yeah.
Kinda
Yeah. People like it for pornography. That's pretty much it.
Well, but even then, that's only 180 usually.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've got to get those pixels where it matters, it turns out. So we built a tool to let you create a lot of content in VR relatively inexpensively. And we did that for a little while. It turns out nobody wants to pay for VR content, which is fine. So we did 5 episodes of the Foo Show. And we're, for the last 2 years, we've been doing a lot of 2D animation using the tools that we built to make Foo. So it's exactly the same as it is in VR, except for instead of the viewer being somebody walking around inside that space with a headset, you have a virtual camera that you fly around with drone controls or a shoulder rig or a fake boom, whatever you want. We've made cartoons for Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, and some other places.
Wow.
We did a couple of nationwide ad campaigns and some other things.
And using just VR kind of gear?
Yeah, so the way it works is that you put the performers, and we spent most of last year taking what we learned in 2017 and early 2018 and rebuilding the tool to actually be good for the people who are working in that space. But yeah, you put on a headset, you have hand controllers, you maybe have some more trackers on your feet and your waist if you're doing a full body shot. And the performers just walk around and they act in VR the same way they would act in real life. But, the performances are captured and then we can either shoot them live and pipe it out to the internet just like you would on Twitch, any video game, or we can record the animations and then go in and clean them up in post and stuff like that.
And are you just using consumer headsets and
We are
things like
using
that, or
commercially licensed Vives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
different, mainly because they have a 24-hour turn on support stuff. So
Oh, okay.
instead of having to have double the headsets when we go on a shoot in case something dies, I only keep one extra and then I know I'll get a new one the next day.
Nice. Okay.
Wow. We have a couple clips too, right? What it looks like these days?
Yeah, so this is The first one I think is just me. This is using a new thing that we've set up to do VTuber stuff, and we had some skinning problems on the hands.
I'm Will, and I'm here today to test out our new rendering technique. I don't know if it's going to work. It feels like it looks pretty good to me, but I'm just kind of peeking out of the corner of the eye. Hey, check this out.
So this is using a mixture of Vive hand controllers, the Knuckles controllers, which you probably heard about. I'm testing fingers. This is an actual test clip, not something I prepared to show to people. So, but we use a depth camera like the one that's on the front of an iPhone or one of those Intel depth cameras to, and that's the end of the clip, to track eyes and mouth. So it turns out it's easier to do. To actually just measure where your lips are. Maybe skip ahead to the "this is fine" one if you want to see what happens when it doesn't work right. This is pretty funny. This is what happens.
That is wow. That's scary.
Yeah, we anchored the head and the chair in all the same places, so then it's just the hands flying around the room.
I think you're going to give some people nightmares.
I'm sorry, I apologize in advance, but body horror is our stock and trade here at FooVR.
John Carpenter directed this. I mean.
Yeah, I was just
Look at
the audio's not working, but I'm just saying, help me, kill me. Kill me.
Does somebody sit on your face at the end of this?
No, that's not appropriate.
No. I think you guys are owned by Disney now.
Yeah, that's not
We're
appropriate.
trying to get it.
Okay. So yeah, that's what we do with food. So we can do all sorts of different kind of animation styles, and we can do more 3D render. We can do something that's real like early 3D console like PlayStation or Nintendo 64.
That's
like
pretty cool.
And we can do it in real time.
And the voice is recorded, and then so that the voice acting, it's all done at the same time.
So one of the things we learned in 2018 is that a lot of the people who are voice actors probably aren't great physical actors. Mm-hmm. So we've split it up so you can either record the voice first, and then we can kind of play back the cues if we're doing like individual takes, if we're doing like a more traditional one camera shoot, or we can have the voice actor in front of the depth camera and a motion actor in the headset, and we can perform them both at the same time.
Is there still a need for it? Because I mean, if you look at hopefully one day Disney sponsors, you look at early Disney cartoons, mm-hmm. and then you look at like South Park. I mean, like one is like, wow, that's amazing. And then to South Park is like basically somebody moving a character around. It's like, do people still want to buy or do they still want higher quality content? Do people want to watch it?
So, yeah, I mean, if you look at what Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Fox and Cartoon Network and FX, they're like, people are buying more animation now than ever. There's a real hunger for it. If you look at like what Netflix has done alone, like they do a ton of kids animation, which you may be less familiar with now since your kids are a little bit older.
Maybe if Netflix would invest in actually storyline.
Well, but like look at what they did with that Castlevania thing, right?
Oh, so it's
good?
Actually really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's really good. They did, I think, 4 episodes of that because it was really expensive. People really liked it. They greenlit it, and because of the way the animation production process works, it was a 1.5 years from the time they aired the first 4 episodes, and people were like, "This is pretty good. We should watch. We should probably make more of this," until it was able to come up again. So like we can cut out, instead of having to send off your storyboards and animatics and voice acting to Malaysia or South Korea or Africa or someplace where animation happens. We can just do that in a soundstage in LA in like 2 weeks instead of 50 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you want to save time or money, we can do one or the other is the takeaway. Maybe a little bit of both.
Nice.
So I got a question though. So you've pivoted because you basically said it looks like a lot of people don't want to pay for VR content. Is VR dying or dead?
So
this is the perennial media question that everybody has.
And we've got lots of opinions in the chat right now. That's for damn sure.
Well, so for games, I think VR is doing pretty well. Like we based on the publicly available numbers, we're around 8 million real headsets on the market. And so this is a thing that took a while to realize. I mean, the people who'd been using VR earliest knew immediately, but for me, real VR is a 6DoF tracked headset and hands, right? Like there's a lot of neat games you can play with a gamepad and a 6DoF headset.
Which actually, side note, when you were here last, part of the discussion was, hey, everything changed when the hand controllers came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that wasn't a thing. Like early on, it was always a gamepad, and I was like, wow, I totally forgot that was
we talked
how
about
things were.
If I'm thinking back in time, I probably talked a lot about verbs and how you use different how having the ability to just pick something up and release
interaction
it gives you a lot more interaction potential. So yeah, I mean, with games are doing well. Like Beat Saber sold more than 1 million copies. There've probably been 10 or 12 titles at this point that have sold more than 1 million copies. And we're like 3 years in, I guess, since the commercial headsets became available. So I mean, we're on track with like a traditional console release in terms of how games are going. Quest is coming out later this year. Valve seemingly has something coming out very soon. There's a updated second gen Rift coming. And I think between those things, especially Quest is going to be really interesting as a gaming platform. The thing that I realized as a content creator early on is that there's not a massive market for more traditional, like something that's in between a traditional podcast and a VR game that's content. So like we sell a few hundred copies of every new Foo episode we put out on Steam. That's fine. I'm okay with it. We use it to test new ideas and content.
It's just not there yet, or
I don't.
Or was it ever,
Well, so think about how I think the technology and the market aren't there. Like the market isn't big enough to support ad-driven stuff now. I don't ever want to really work in an ad-driven business again, having done it for a long time. So I think. I mean, it may get there when we have more headsets, when more people are using the headsets more often. I mean, the big challenge right now, especially for stuff that's less interactive, we were building something that was intentionally very interactive with the Foo Show. But the challenge is, when I'm sitting down and I watch TV on my couch, the moment I get slightly bored, I grab my phone and I distract myself by posting something snarky to Twitter about how bad the thing I'm watching is. And I think that's how most people interact with linear, non-interactive content now. And when you're putting on the headset, that option goes away.
Yeah.
So we need Valve and Facebook and all the people that are building VR headsets to give us Twitter in the headsets.
Picture-in-picture, yeah. There you go.
A way to say snarky things from within the headset.
Yeah, I need to not be able to take I need to not have to take my heads off, which means I need better input than the weird wavy finger controllers. And yeah. Get on that, guys.
Well, so one of the things you talked about last time, where you thought you could see things going, or that where you wanted to go personally was like a Price is Right style thing, audience interaction, and I think of things like HQ, which have kind of blown up since then. Do you still think that is an option or something you'd want to get into?
Yeah, it's funny. I pitched that probably 50 times over the last 3 years. Everybody thinks it's a really great idea. Everybody loves it. Nobody wants to pay for it. It turns out it's like putting on even like that old Xbox thing, 1 versus 100, which was the first prototype of this. It was a 101 player game show that happened live on Xbox Live every Monday night at like 7:00.
It was awesome,
and it was rad. But it was incredibly expensive to put on.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to, like the audience is not big enough for VR yet that people are comfortable saying, okay, we're going to do, even $50,000 an episode to make this thing happen. And then hope we figure out how to make money with it somehow. So, but I would love to do it. If you want to write a check, I'm at Will Smith on Twitter. Is the easiest way to find me.
Perfect.
It occurs to me though, the entertainment is so shifted for sort of 3D content. Although you're not consuming it in VR, a Twitch stream or a YouTube live stream where they're playing games, and you've got somebody hunched in their game chair and they're giving shout outs. Is that enough for everybody, or are we going to see that come to VR? Because it's really funny. That's what people do all day, and I'm an old man, so I don't understand it, but so I can see the fun of you're on this adventure with them in this 3D world.
Yeah,
get their snark from them.
Like, have you played Rec Room? Done the Rec Room quests?
I have not yet.
So you guys should try those. I think that they're, in terms of things that are like linear storytelling that are interactive, it's basically like a dungeon crawling LARP that happens in VR. You put on your headset with 3 of your friends, you load into Rec Room, and then you have it's like a high school theater club decorated the school to look like a dungeon crawl or a science fiction shootout or whatever. It's all made out of cardboard. It's all really lovely lo-fi art. And like you have to use weapons that are like bows and arrows and shields and maces and stuff like that to progress through the story. And the Rec Room folks have done a really good job balancing the difficulty on that stuff. So it's like it never feels like it's unfair, but it's hard enough that you're not going to probably get through in one session. And it's surprisingly physical. So like, I think that there's room for that kind of storytelling experience. I think there's room for escape rooms and completely new and innovative ways to tell narrative stories that are more interactive and closer to like an old Telltale adventure game than say Game of Thrones.
So 3 years ago when we had the last episode, you were also talking about backtops.
Yeah. They're available.
Yeah. Just it was early on, and you liked the idea, and this was before we started talking about the inside-out tracking stuff. Do you think the inside-out tracking is a better evolution, or because the backtop stuff you still need to be constrained to a space?
Well, it
but
depends.
Inside-out tracking, theoretically, you could.
Well, so even when you're using like an AR headset like the Magic Leap, you still have to scan the space before you start using it for most of the stuff you're using. So I mean, I think if you look at like the location-based stuff, like what Zero Latency and the Void and all those guys do, you're still having to set up the space and set up the like in order to be safe, especially in VR where you can't see the world around you. You need to really establish what the safe space is in advance before you start playing. So I mean, I think backtops are neat. Backtops with wired headsets are neat. I have one of the Vive wireless adapters for my Vive Pro, and that thing, like it's amazing. Like I've spent thousands of hours in VR. I'm totally used to managing the wire. It is so nice to not have to manage the wire.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it, and you're not. It's one less thing to think about it. So you end up whether you're Beat Sabering or Rec Rooming or whatever, you're just much more engaged with the content. I think ideally the best case is like an inside-out tracked headset that is self-contained and doesn't require a giant PC 20 feet away, and all the wireless stuff is still kind of fiddly.
But that's kind of where we're headed. It feels like inside out versus tracked. I mean, outside in.
I'm of two minds. Like, yes, in terms of consumer adoption, I think if we move to ARM-based inside-out tracked standalone headsets like the Quest and like the Vive Focus, I think is what their Asia-only one is. I think that's the best of both worlds. It's something that's easy to set up. It costs $400. You're all in. Like those are the two big complaints about even like a $250 Rift, which is what you can find them for occasionally with touch controllers.
But so for me, I'm always about the PC, and
I've heard that about you.
It's hard to believe that we're ever going to get to everything running on an ARM chip in a headset versus one of these monsters behind us. Just because the fidelity you're getting, the performance you're getting, is just amazing.
That's the thing you lose, right? That is the bummer. I think like if you look at what you sacrifice when you go from PC with even a modest like a launch VR spec min spec PC, which was like a 970, like you're getting dynamic lights and you're getting a bunch of tessellation. You're getting all this stuff that a giant 150 TDP GPU can do. And when you move to something that runs on battery and is self-contained, even though it's highly optimized, you don't get mobile. You don't get a lot of dynamic lights on. If you do 3 dynamic lights on an ARM chip, you're going to make it get real hot and do bad things.
Yeah.
So and like when you're looking at like games that support ray tracing now, like that's not going to be an ARM for a decade.
Yeah, at least, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be lucky if we actually see ray trace games in that decade.
In real life, on the PC. So yeah. I mean, it's because remember, it's not like moving an Xbox 360 game onto an iPhone. You still have to run it at 70 or 90 hertz per eye, so that's times 2 in order to get it to work on the desktop. Although, I mean, I have to say, Oculus is getting good results with Quest, and that's I think I can't remember what they said, but it's last generation ARM. It's not even the current generation ARM. So like it's fine.
Doesn't this feel very much like I haven't bought into a VR system yet because it's just so pricey, and it just feels like it's in play all the time, and the hardware keeps changing. The hardware keeps getting better. I saw the HP, I think they call it Reverb.
Their second gen mixed reality headset.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's like second gen, and it's like 2160 by 2160 per eye. It's just beautiful. Like there, you can read text, and it's, it was made for an enterprise market, but they're going to sell to consumers too.
Mm-hmm.
And I also tried the Vive with the eye tracking.
How was
Tobii
that?
demo? It was really, it was pretty awesome because I mean, when you're used to just sort of moving your eyes and things don't work. You would, obviously they're optimizing the software for it, but you'd look at it, it would know you're looking at this, you'd pick it up. The motion, it just felt a lot more natural.
That's awesome.
You basically, for people who don't know, they put Tobii eye trackers inside the headset and you basically look at it. So, but you've got higher res, you've got wireless, you've got all these new features. You've got inside out versus outside in. You know, I just don't. I can see a lot of people saying, I'm going to wait until this is. I don't want to end up buying the, Windows phone of the smartphones. Nobody
wants the Windows phone. Turns out,
unfortunately, Windows phone users. Sorry, but
you guys made a bad choice.
You are. But.
Here's the thing. All of the launch hardware, the stuff that was sold in April of 2016, still is good. Still works. Like the touch controllers, you were able to add touch controllers to the original launch Rift. The Vive, you've been able to get a pro audio strap if you want to have a headset that's comfortable. You can tack on the wireless thing onto that, right? It's all like that. So far, nobody has been left behind, except for the people who bought Gear VR. I think people are still putting Gear VR games out occasionally. With that in mind, like if you're thinking about jumping in now, I might hold off because there are new headsets coming.
Sure.
It's unclear. Like the Rift S with inside out tracking is really interesting because it's kind of a sideways, like it's a little bit higher resolution screen. It's a little lower.
And they have more
refresh rate.
cameras on it, right? And
There's
side.
Well, so the original Rift used Constellation, which was outside pointing in.
Right.
So you had to put cameras around your room, and it was basically facing forward. You could add a third camera, but that was fraught.
Yeah.
The question here is that with the inside facing out, which uses SLAM, it's basically math to figure out where you are in the space using two separated cameras. It's unclear. Like that headset isn't isn't clearly better than the existing one, even though it uses a newer technology. Like I don't know. It's interesting. I haven't spent enough time with it to say.
But you definitely don't need. I mean, the big complaint is the base stations that everybody complains about, Well,
so the base stations give you especially for stuff like I'm doing, where we're essentially doing motion tracking. The base stations give you give you really precise information, right? They're really good for that. If you just want to play Rec Room in your living room hooked up to your PC, probably you're fine with the inside out tracking. So yeah, I think there's a place for both. I think what we're going to end up seeing is more of of course, a lot of the installation, the location-based VR games are now venues are now using inside out, like Windows MR headsets and stuff like that. So, we'll see. I think more options is good. I think there's probably once we see what comes out of whatever Valve has and however the Rift S and the Quest turn out, like I think this is the time. If you buy a headset right now, there are 10 amazing games that you can buy and play that will. I still play Beat Saber once a week probably.
And prices have come down too. It feels like a little bit
on some headsets more than others. I think the original Rift is out of stock right now because they announced and people bought up all the old ones. But it seems like that's going to be a $400 Rift S. Quest is going to be $400. I would assume that HTC is going to continue lowering prices as they can on the Vive.
So I think one of the bigger questions that I have is like momentum. I know when we talked last, like there was a lot of hype. VR, was coming out. I even have a quote from Gordon here, saying that he's never seen people so excited about any technology before. As it was ramping up. We had people always wanting to come into our studio, like you were bringing, you still bring in your family every once in a while, but I feel like, especially when we do coverage of it, whether it's video or articles on PC World, it just doesn't get as much traction anymore, and that the momentum is kind of slowed. What do you feel about that? Because I think that's kind of one of the bigger problems too, is that even if the prices come down and obviously there's good content, the momentum seems to have been like, it's not the next thing.
I think it's one of those. You know about the Gartner hype cycle, right? So something's in pre-release, it gradually ramps up until its maximum hype right before it becomes available. And then once it's available and people are confronted with the reality of the new device, then there's a trough that immediately falls off because people try and they're like, there's nothing to do with this. I bought this iPhone and there's no apps in 2007, right? Is a perfect example. And then as you bottom out, it either bottoms out or keeps going down forever and disappears and you never hear about it again. Or something new, something changes. The community embraces it. People start developing for it. Some I'm going to say the killer app thing. I'm sorry, but some killer app comes out and people are like, oh, I need to get one of these things. And then you start to see sales pick back up again. I think they call that dip the trough of despair. which I think is a really good name.
Yeah, that is really good.
And I think we're through the trough of despair and starting to come up the other side now. I mean, Sony announced that they've sold 4 million PSVRs, which is not the best headset, but at an entry level price and something you can get on an amazing deal, fairly much on the reg. Also, a bunch of you can play Beat Saber, you can play Hypercube, you can play Rec Room, you can play
For the new
Job
Tetris
Simulator.
is good in it.
Tetris Effect, yeah, exactly. Like there's it's a good place to start if you have a console already. And I think that's where we're at. I think we're just now reaching the point where there's enough headsets in the market that it's interesting for larger developers, and we're going to start seeing some projects that are more than like a 10-person team working for 18 months on the title. And we're also starting to see things like telepresence apps and stuff like that. That's interesting. So like big screen is a way to share space with people when you're not in the same physical area, and it's an incredibly useful application.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Gartner that had that.
I think it's called the Gartner Hype Cycle, I believe.
Interesting, because
Yeah.
I always called it my own version. I always like how when you have your own version of something, it's like then you find out somebody else.
The
that's
Gordon
been there
Hype
for
Cycle?
10 years
Yeah.
already.
Well, it turns out when you're doing startup pitches, everybody has one of those where you are in the Gartner Hype Cycle things. And I didn't know. That's when I learned that it was called the Hype Cycle. Anyway, yeah.
Although I wonder if things have sort of changed in the social media world we live in now, because there are things that hype cycle, which we are, that's what I've made a living doing for 20 years. It feels like that's sort of changed now, because now you sort of have an anti-hype thing, because the ray tracing thing, I was really shaken. I was really surprised. Like, wow, it was exciting stuff. Yeah, I know there's a lot of high price and all that stuff, but it's like there's so much headwind in a lot of new technologies now. Where I don't know if that maybe the hype cycle isn't as what it used to be anymore.
Well, so like with VR, there were, as always, the analysts are like 90% wrong and 10% right. And there was one guy out there was like, look, they're going to sell 1 million headsets in the first year if they do really well. And everybody else was like, here's the path to 1 billion VR headsets.
Oh yes.
So part of the problem is that expectations are set so high. It's like Apple rolls out their iPhone earnings and they're like, we've sold more phones this quarter than we ever have before. Stock price tanks because the analysts were like, they need to sell 30% more than they said.
Yes.
And why do we listen to analysts? Who knows?
Well, because have ever given you the math formula?
No.
So like
Gordon's math formula.
Well,
Gordon
so
teaches
like
math.
if you're a forecaster, meteorologist, you go to school for all that, you can be right maybe 75% of the time. People are okay with that.
Yeah.
If you're a journalist like me and I tell you how to spend your money, you about 50% of the time are right. You're like, coin flip.
Yeah.
If you're an analyst, it's maybe 25% of the time, right?
That's all you have to be right?
Yeah.
Look, there's a risk inherent in the market.
Yeah, that's my shout out at journalists too, and analysts, because we're often wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, because the whole VR, everybody just sees it's like all the new announcements are all enterprise focused. It just feels like VR. It's just like
So there's a lot of business happening, B2B stuff. Like the stuff that we do, frankly, like there's a lot of money to be made. There's a massive tools opportunity that nobody's really doing. Because like if you think about, like I'm bad at doing 3D sculpting, right? Like in ZBrush or Maya or any of those tools, because my brain is bad at making that 2D, 4 2D views into a 3D object shift. I can't do that. But when you put me in a headset in Quill or in Tiltbrush or Medium or one of the other tools that are available for sculpting in 3D, I'm super good at that. I can do that because my brain knows how to work with the 3D. It is the most native interface for computers that we have so far. And I mean, at the end of the day, whether VR with headsets that blank out the world is a success, like spatial computing is coming, right? Spatial computing meaning mixed reality, alternate, AR, whatever you want to call it. Like it's all the same technology. It's just, can you see the world through it? Can you not see the world through it? How integrated is the world with what you're doing? Do you have to pre-scan the environments, which we always do now? Like what's the use? And like the underlying technology is there now. It just has to be developed to the point that it's like that it fits into a pair of glasses that are normal enough that you or I will wear them out on the street.
Yeah, that seems like that's about 180 years away. But
it's always 10.
Come on, it's always 10.
It's 10 years, Gordon.
That's foreverness.
10 years means 5 years. 5 years means, yeah, we're pretty sure we know how to do this, but we need to figure out 2 or 3 things. 10 years means, yeah, we're like we can see how we could get there theoretically if all the pieces line up.
Yeah, and 10 years from now, believe me, I'll be at a new job. You can't blame me for being wrong. That's the whole thing.
No.
Do you think we're too focused on the VR headset hardware. People just sort of like get into the resolution game. Is it foveated? Does it have eye tracking and all this other wireless? And
So the foveated thing is a big deal, right? Like doing foveated rendering for real in a headset is going to it's what's going to make the ARM headsets possible, right? Because then you can apply more possible. Then you can apply the actual rendering that you need to the part of the screen that your eyeball is looking, and like just kind of fuzz out the rest of the stuff. Because frankly, our eyes don't detect. Yeah, our peripheral vision is bad. It detects movement and shadows and light.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. So if we can focus on the part, that little tiny circle in the center of our eyeball, then yeah, you can do magic with a really low powered ARM headset. We're not there yet. I mean, aside from that, the difference between, to me, the steps are functional. So can I read text in the headset? I couldn't do that in the original launch Rift. I couldn't do that in the original launch Vive. I can on the Vive Pro. I can on a lot of the mixed reality headsets with the higher resolution screens. Once you cross that threshold, I think the next step is foveated rendering. And until the game's supported, it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say, I always want to bring this up because I review the Google Daydream. Lenovo made it, right?
Yeah.
I was very impressed. I face it.
It's a $6 standalone headset, right?
Yeah, but I'm a PC bigot, right? Everything is PC's better. But there's a Blade Runner game that I tried, and you get into the spinner. You sit down on this thing, and like, even though it's just, and then you take off in the spinner. It's like, wow, really, even though it was low resolution, not the greatest content, basically like cartoony, it was still like an amazing experience, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, the nice thing about VR is that still our physiology determines what min spec is, right? So like, if you can't run your thing at, depending on the platform, between 60 and 90 hertz per eye, then people are going to feel motion sick. A lot of people are going to feel motion sick. And so like the performance is less of an issue now, because if you don't hit the min spec, it's just going to be bad. It's binary, right? So like, and if the screens are good enough to fool your reptile brain into thinking the thing you're in is real, then the rest of it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I think as long as you have hands and you have 6DoF tracking for hands and head, you're like 90% of the way there. And the rest of it's just gravy for the nerds.
It may be imagination too. People that are willing to let go and imagine, let their brain fill in the rest.
Well, it's one of the funny things we learned doing the Foo show. We instrumented a lot of that Firewatch episode so we could see what people did when they had the headset on. And they picked up, like, the average number of pickups of objects in that space was like 90 for a 20-minute total thing, of which maybe 12 minutes was in the Watchtower. So people picked up 90 objects, which is bonkers. Wow. In like 7 minutes. They're just constantly picking stuff up and putting it down. The other thing is that nobody walked through the tower, there's a table in the middle of the room, and like 10% of people walked through it, clipped through it. Most people just don't walk into the furniture, even though there's it's not a physical object. You can walk right through the walls of that tower. It's no big deal. Nobody does it.
Huh.
Yeah.
To speak on the performance stuff, we have a question from where is it, Luca? What computer do you run to do this stuff? You know, and then to kind of piggyback off that, you know, do you think there is a healthy midpoint that people should be looking at for performance stuff? And then also, I will mention that last time you were talking about how you were carrying around a 12-pound MSI G270S to give demos and stuff. Do you still do a laptop to?
So hold on, I'm gonna Velcro.
I got a prop.
Yes, I got a prop. So the laptop that I used to do demos now most of the time for our stuff, since we don't have a lot of dynamic lights, is a 2016 Razer with a 1060 mobile chip. It's fine. I also have the external GPU box for when I want to do a real demo and I want to make absolutely sure everything's good. And that also, like, often if we're doing a shoot, we'll use one of these laptops with the external GPU box to do 4K.
Wow.
To do 4K capture. So we'll do either 4 1080p cameras in a 4K grid, or we'll do one 4K capture, depending on what the client wants. I mean, most VR stuff is still targeted to run on that original min-spec computer that Oculus came up with, which was like a 970 with
I think it was like 4 cores, right?
Yeah, it was a quad core with 8 gigs of memory, maybe. I can't remember. But the important thing was the video card. I think if you have any, like 1060 is a really sweet spot for just VR stuff. That'll let you play pretty much anything at 1080p, it seems like, for normal games. If you want to do 4K, then you're looking at a higher end machine. My machine at home is, I think I already said, it's a 6880 or 68 something.
20K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a 1080 Ti.
Wow, that's enough. Plenty.
I mean, I feel like I could use a little bit more CPU for PUBG sometimes. If I wanted to play PUBG at 4K,
which we'll get into.
1440p,
Yeah.
probably the 2880 Ti is the way to go. It seems ridiculous to spend $1,300 on a video card, though. So, here we are. 1440p is fine, it turns out.
But it is nice, you have more options on the laptop side for VR, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just the thick honking laptops as it was in the past.
Well, so the sacrifice on the laptop is that this thing has like 45 minutes of battery life
Well,
because
yeah.
like there's so much space. Like if you look at Gordon's laptop and you open that up, it's a little tiny computer with a boatload of battery in there, and this thing is a bunch of computer and video card cooling,
Yeah.
and like a battery that's like a quarter of the inside volume.
People always ask, well, you do video rundown tests on the gaming laptop. What's the battery life when you're gaming? It's like it's always the same. It's an hour. It doesn't matter
If you're lucky.
Yeah, it's like if you're lucky, it's always an hour. It's not going to get any better. You're going to fire up a 45 watt chip and then
Yeah.
an 85 watt GPU. Don't get you, and with a 99 watt hour battery, it's never going to get better, folks.
If I'm on a plane where they cycle the power, like the old Virgin planes where they cycle the power on and off per row, so you can get a little bit of charge for like 10 minutes and then they move to the next set of rows.
Really?
That's
Oh,
how
I didn't know
airplane
that.
power usually works.
What?
So
Wow.
I can play Dishonored when I'm flying to Chicago or LA or Atlanta, and I can usually play the entire way because it'll charge a little bit and then the power cuts off and then it'll drain a little bit and then it'll charge a little bit and drain a little bit. And yeah.
I had no idea.
That is a scam. I always thought it was always constant feed.
Look, man, it's an airplane.
Yeah, but
Look, where are they going to get electricity? It's not like
I
they have
bet you-
two giant engines outside constantly generating electricity.
I bet you they don't cycle the power in business class. I bet you business class
front of plane.
100%.
Look, those people in the front, they get double power. They have two plugs. It's generous.
There's probably a 220 plug up
Yeah,
there.
right?
Yeah, just plug in your dryer.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna look on my way to Computex. I'm gonna plug in something to
Yeah,
that
we should
plug
do
now
that.
and see what's going on.
International planes do better. Wide bodies do better power than narrow. Like I'm usually on like A320s, I guess, is what seems like I'm on most often.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking a turboprop to Computex
Ooh.
this time. So,
There you go.
you did mention PUBG, and I do
Yes.
want to shift a little bit away from VR. If there's any more VR questions, we can.
No, let's go into some PC.
I want to talk about PC stuff because Will and I, we used to be dipped, as they say, in it in the early days of the PC, the 2000s kind of era. You've not totally been into the community and following all the stuff. As kind of, what's your view of how the PC has gone? Because in our day, people don't remember. And they don't understand why I'm always so angry and aggro against everybody. But for the longest time, our competitors have tried to kill us, right? So it really feels like we've turned the corner on
He
the
means
PC.
consoles.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's consoles, and then it turned
Closed
into
platforms.
phones, and then that's why everybody's on my. I'm like the Oakland Raiders. Everybody's on my enemy list. Everybody, analysts, tech media, which I'm a member of.
Yeah, self-hating.
It's a self-hating. You just kind of like, because people have been trying to kill the PC for the longest time, and only for the last 4 years, it feels like people have accepted the PC's place in the world.
I feel like when Steve Jobs said, "Hey, look, we're building sports cars with the phone, and then the pickup truck is the PC," I felt like that set the tone for the next decade.
Oh man.
Yeah, and you know what? Every time I point out, people go like, because people say that. You know what the best-selling car this year in the United States is?
pickup truck.
F-150. You
Yeah,
know what it
that's-
was the year before? F-150. You know what was the year before that? F1. You know,
There's some socio-political stuff going on with the pickup truck
but the
purchasing.
trucks are the number one selling car in America almost every year.
Buying a car is like buying sunglasses. You're not buying them to serve a function. You're buying them for the image.
I'm buying
So-
it. I'm going to buy a truck now.
You should get a truck. You are a truck guy. You just never knew it.
I used to have one. I used
I
to have
remember.
a rotary pickup. So I just kind of like, so your view of the world, though. I mean, but we've turned the corner. PC's like, wow, this is greatness, but then everybody seems still so like I'm kind of it's gotten so angry to me. Like even I'm not even that angry anymore. But it just seems like
You
from an
mellowed a
outsider's,
lot.
I mellow a little bit. Is there sort of like what you know?
So, okay,
from
so
an outsider's view.
from
But let's not make people angry on either side of the aisle. But you know,
Look, here's the thing. When we started Tested, I was a laptop only guy. I still had a gaming PC at home, but it was mainly a place to play games. When I started doing more video myself and having to like do the video encoding, especially before there was GPU assisted encode that was worth anything, which kind of just happened like 3 months ago. I suddenly realized that I needed to have a machine with a lot of CPU cores again. I think I was happy when we started Foo. I was mainly using the phone for like work stuff, like emails and communication and all the things that phones are really good at. And then I would use the VR machine to do VR work, to test stuff and to help our developers and build art and all that stuff. So like I mean, it's a specialized thing. Like a laptop is great for most people. If you play games, you want to have a real computer probably. It's the same as like, that's kind of the way it always has been, right?
yeah.
So I don't like when I stopped working at Tested, I was really excited because I meant I didn't have to read tech news obsessively all the time, which is bad for your soul. I'm sorry.
Well, or comments.
Yeah.
Mostly attached to those
Don't
stories.
never read comments.
Ugh.
I really strongly reject like the tribal fanboyism that is so rampant in these spaces. Like I feel like anytime you hitch your personal mental health and well-being on some multi-billion-dollar corporation's latest product, you've probably made a mistake. Just philosophically.
Yeah.
Like I love things like PC Part Picker and Wirecutter because I can and anybody who's reviewing stuff, right? Because I can go and be like, okay, I need to buy something, but I don't need to spend 6 hours researching this. I could just Wirecutter says this is okay. Nathan's okay. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
PC Part Picker. The consensus is usually pretty good. Gordon says this about this set of motherboards. Okay,
Yeah,
here's
to
what I'm
listen
going to
to
get.
that guy.
Yeah, right. Like I'm lucky enough. I also have the added benefit of when I have a question about something, I can text you and be like, hey, what's the deal on this? And you'll be like, no, don't get that one. Get this one. Which it turns out is also on the site usually.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel like I don't wait to buy things until the new one is out anymore. I used to always do that. But now if I need something,
Wow.
like if I'm in a position and I like something's broken, which is usually when I replace things now, then I just go buy whatever the good one is at the time. And if like there's a new CPU coming in 2 months, it's probably okay for me.
So to an outsider, even somebody who was very part of this for a long time, it's mostly static. Then all the shouting and all the arguing about this spec and that spec, and just kind of.
So I bought I pre-ordered a 2080 Ti from NVIDIA because I wanted to see like being able to do 4K with a bunch of post-render effects for us is really important, right? As on the company level.
Yeah, but everyone's saying RTX is dead too, like ray tracing is the worst,
Look,
the
number
it's
of
too
times,
early.
Hey man, Call of Duty Black Ops is coming out. PUBG's gonna die, man. You're playing a dead game. I don't care, man. I'm having fun. As long as I'm having fun, I don't care. The RTX stuff was really interesting, and then the drivers were kind of janky out of the box, and I wasn't really convinced that NVIDIA was going to give me the kind of support I wanted on a $1,300 video card, which was, I mean, reasonable on their part because I expected a lot for a $1,300 video card. I sent it back. Like it didn't do what we needed.
And you're running a
fine.
1080 Ti and you're happy with that?
It's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I feel mostly adequate. I look, yeah, I'll be fine. I'm a big boy.
No, it's interesting because you're running basically a 6-core.
Yeah.
You need the PCIe lane, so you're running a X99.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
But I really need is the USB, which turns out X99 has a bad USB bus, but that's a whole other conversation.
Can you run just an add-in card or no? It just doesn't.
I could, but I have a PCI Express SSD. I have one of those Intel, those big boys. And I have a capture card, video capture card, and I have something else. Oh, the Y-Gig that you need for the Vive Wireless is a PCI by 1 slot.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have enough. I think that the open PCI Express slot that I have is probably not actually live at this point because of all the lanes that are taken by the other stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Like doing streaming stuff at night for fun and then also doing the VR stuff. It turns out the VR stuff is like you need a real computer for that. Who knew?
You mentioned earlier, you're talking about video encoding. Are you doing GPU encoding now?
No, so I have a separate. I do 2 PC streams. So I stream PUBG at night for fun because I
That's the
wanted
other
to learn
topic.
about Twitch, and then it ended up just being fun. And I built a lovely little community there of people that are like really positive and not racist and delightful.
And you're really good too.
I'm
you
a
are
reasonably
really good.
I've won money in PUBG events.
Really?
Yeah, not a
So-
lot, but enough. Hi.
Is
me
it-
anything.
Ask. So I'm honestly, I'm not a huge fan of PUBG because I think the mechanics of it are a little wonky for me. It just kind
It's
of
definitely wonky.
and yeah, so that kind of bugs me. And then also I'm just too old to. There's just too many threats.
So okay, here's the thing. The Battle Royale thing is interesting because it's the first time I'd felt fear in a video game since probably playing Fatal Frame the first time. Like it's a scary, the first time you see a bad guy and another person in your first solo game of PUBG, it's terrifying. The things, they do a couple things really, really well. Like their ballistics model and their sound models are both exceptional.
Okay.
To the point that like after putting a few thousand hours into the game, I can look at somebody running 150 meters away and hit them in the head with a single shot rifle, right? Maybe almost always the first time, but at least by the second or third shot.
That's amazing because
Yeah, because you have to like lob and everything. There's like there's lift, there's arc on the shots.
okay.
You that stuff they do really well. Like everything else about the game, they're kind of bad at, right? Like the vehicles are interesting in a really janky way because the physics are kind of bouncy and bad. So all sorts of weird good stuff happens when you get in a car and you hit a bump and like somebody shoots out your tire and the car flips over like 30 times and you drive away on 3 tires. It's for me. I play with friends every night, which is nice. So it's an opportunity to kind of hang out and shoot the shit. And there's a
Hey,
oh, sorry, naughty
Disney
words.
sponsorship.
sorry. Disney, that's me. I'm at Gordon Ung on Twitter. But the thing about it is you end up in these. There's a nice cadence to it for like hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of activity at the beginning of a game, then there's a kind of dead period in the middle, and then there's a lot of activity toward the middle and end of the game. So you can like have a conversation about how your day was and all that kind of stuff. Too,
Really?
which is nice. Yeah.
I mean,
Once-
that's the nice thing about team play, I guess. But
Once you become a proficient murderer, so that game is very different playing solo and playing with people. If you'd like to play sometime, I'll show you the ropes.
I don't know. I mean, I need a new game. I really need a new game. I mean, because soul sucking of.
It reminds me a lot of like when we used to play Desert Combat back in the day.
See, that's it. People don't even know what that is, Desert Combat. That was mod for Battlefield 1942.
Yeah, it basically inspired Battlefield 2.
Yeah.
It seems like.
It was awesome. It was an awesome.
Like that game, Battlefield 1942 Desert Combat and Battlefield 2, we played a ton of back in the day.
And I do wonder if I think I need a game where I just don't care. That's the problem. Is I care too much. I still,
Yeah.
you play a game long enough and you want to win,
Yeah.
and you're basically playing, random pickup games. It's just too hard to have high expectations.
Well, so if you play with the same group of people, then like this is the thing that Discord does, right? Is like I have a bunch of Discords, and there's ones that are like 3 people, and they're the people I play with all the time. Then there's also these larger ones where if I just want to get a game sometime and people aren't available, you can hop in.
Hey, the Full Nerd has a Discord. Yeah.
Oh,
There you
Yeah,
go.
there you go. You should play with the community.
Hey, I want to ask this, but a 1080 Ti is not enough to run PUBG. And a 6820.
So I'm playing on a 4K G-Sync monitor.
Oh,
I
but still, it's PUBG.
it's that game. So the way the sound works, it's not the GPU. It's a little bit the GPU. It's a lot CPU on that game because they run the sound on the CPU and they're modeling like what's it called, bounce and all the like you can after you played enough of that game, I can hear where something is and know that it's like off. It's like 220 degrees and like a quarter of a mile away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they use I think Fmod, I can't remember,
Okay.
Scale Mod, to do their sound stuff, and it is. There's 2 things that are really important for that kind of game, especially when you're playing first person. One is having sound models, so you can tell that there's somebody outside your building because the time to kill is like relatively fast for a game that you can play. Like a game takes 45 minutes, and once you die, you're out. so like having the sound model be good so you can hear when there's people approaching your building, you hear there's people upstairs or downstairs and tell where they are is super important.
And the engine, their audio engine is good enough that it conveys useful information. You could tell.
Yeah, their audio engine's really good. They do spatial stuff. They do HRTF spatial stuff on, I think, bullets and footsteps.
Yeah.
Gunshots, bullet impacts, and footsteps, maybe grenades.
Huh.
To the point that like they've done, like I played in a tournament last year that Twitch put on that put 64. It was like they have a Counter-Strike mode called War Mode where you basically just everybody just keeps getting chucked out of airplanes over and over, already having guns. We played one of those where there were 64 players in a really small circle, and the only people who could handle it were the people with the pro streamers with like the overclocked, water cooled 6 gigahertz machines, because all that stuff happens on the CPU, and it was choking the rest of the game. So like I was getting like 10, 12 frames a second on my 6880.
And it was all mostly because of the audio engine, I
Yeah,
guess. But there's a lot of.
It was mostly because of the audio. Because like adding more pixels of characters doesn't matter. It's not like it's network choking. It's literally just the CPUs couldn't keep up with the number of gunshots that were happening.
Wow.
So now they added a toggle that lets you turn off HRTFs for gunshots for that kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I would just think they do hardware acceleration for the HRTS or something, but
No, because you can't. Everybody has real tech.
yeah.
Everybody has real bad sound.
So when you brought up Battlefield for the hot second, chat definitely lit up.
People
saying
like
that,
Battlefield?
Oh yeah, that those were the days, right?
Yeah. Battlefield
Like,
2 and 3.
now actually we had this discussion I think just yesterday, about how all the battle royale games have kind of overstepped over the old traditional Battlefield games, and it feels like that's not as big of a thing as it was in the past, at least.
Battlefield, they rolled out their battle royale a couple days ago, right? Last week, maybe.
I haven't had a chance to try
I
it.
haven't tried
But
it yet.
in fact, that was a hot topic because this is what spawned the whole "is PUBG dead" thing. Because Dan said, "Oh, PUBG's dead," whatever. But
It's a dead game.
I was very much arguing. Like, I think the community has grown so much. There's so many gamers. There's room for different styles of play.
I mean, that's
you
it.
know?
That's it. Well, there's a couple other things too. Like one is that there's like 1 million people playing in China at any given moment. The other is that there's still 1 million people playing it every night, or 800,000 to 1 million, somewhere in there. They even when they mismanage the game really spectacularly and add like bugs that prevent you from your bullets from landing where you're aiming and stuff like that, people still keep coming back. Fortnite didn't kill it. I mean, there's a room for free to play on the PC that's not a building game. I think a lot of people got turned off by building in Fortnite, and we're seeing a lot of those people going over to stuff like Apex Legends.
Oh,
I mean, that game has an unbelievable pickup rate for something that's been out for like a month and a half or 2 months now.
why does everybody have to copy everybody? Like, hey, we've got a brand new Tetris with the Battle Royale mode. I mean,
Have
I
you
don't
played that?
understand. No, is
It's
it really?
amazing.
I made that up.
It's
God, it's so
it's
good.
actually pretty good.
Are you
yeah.
serious?
Tetris 99,
Yeah.
it's great.
I just made that up.
What else you got? You got any other $1 million ideas?
I just don't.
He's like, listen,
understand.
we go to World War II.
Yeah.
We drop a ton of people, on one map, and they're connected via the internet, and they fight each
Interesting.
other, and there's control points.
I've got this
Yeah.
game. I've got this idea about a plumber, and he
Uh-huh.
likes to jump on mushrooms.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It doesn't seem realistic.
Oh, look,
No.
there's a girl at the end. It's going to be
Oh,
great.
okay.
Why does everything have to be so derivative? I mean, like, it's like Hollywood. Like, oh my God, this thing is really done. Now everybody's got to do a superhero movie, right? Because it's like, oh, that's where all the money is.
Did you see the
Everybody was-
Joker trailer?
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm,
they
I'm
Joaquin
sorry.
Phoenix?
DC is just.
I
come
saw the
on.
poster.
The trailer's okay.
Huh.
So here's the
Good
thing.
luck, DC.
With your argument, though, we would have stopped at Doom or Wolfenstein 3D. Everybody's like, well, first-person shooter, that's done. Guys claimed that one.
But I don't mean the
That's my Gordon
same
voice, by the
thing.
way.
Yeah, it just doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. We're going to do the exact same. We don't. Doesn't
They're
have to
not
be,
doing the exact same thing. Look, Apex adds a ton of stuff that makes Battle Royales much more fun. Like that ping system, you can play entire games with people without having to have any voice communication at all. It's much more humane.
It is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see improving it, but
Yeah.
it just seems like Battlefield 5 with Battle Royale. It's just like I just don't.
I mean, look,
I mean,
there's no, until Apex, there weren't really, I mean, I guess Fortnite was the console option. There wasn't a lot of good, if you didn't like the building stuff in Fortnite, there wasn't a good option for you on the console.
yeah.
And there's still millions, 100 million people with Xbox Ones and PlayStation 4s, right? It's a pretty good sized market from where
yeah,
I sit.
I guess.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
Did you guys talk about Stadia?
We
little bit,
talked about
yeah.
a little bit. I'm actually kind of fascinated by the idea of it all being server side.
It seems neat.
Gordon likes his hardware though.
No, I like for me, nothing's ever going to replace what's behind us. Right?
No.
This is like a fast video
Walls.
card, a fast CPU, low latency, high display. It's just nothing's going to replace that. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of on Stadia, they're saying, maybe you have 100 or 200 or 400 on the server. And, that server, you normally could not deal with that network code on a client server basis, but we're going to do it all in the server and just push you the stream. I mean, it could be changing in that way.
Like if we move the lag off of the PUBG servers
Yes.
and onto the PUBG renderer, that sounds good.
But then you have to buy into, oh my God, I've got to deal with running this lowered resolution or lower texture.
All
And
the edge
Google.
enhancement.
For me,
And Google's going to turn it off in 6 months anyway,
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Because it's like I said, give them control of the English language.
I think, I'm really interested in that stuff. Like, I think that there's a much bigger market for like big AAA games than probably consists of people willing to buy a goofy gaming laptop or a big gaming PC or a console. So yeah, like if my mom could play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, she would totally do that.
I guess maybe, but I think everybody will see this as a threat, server-based gaming, but I honestly think it just gets people into it.
Yeah.
Consoles are good because they get people to buy a PC. They graduate to a PC. And with Stadia, it's like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't want to
Gordon
pay
said
for
consoles
this.
are good.
No, I mean,
Let's
but
mark that.
yeah,
Quote that
because
one. That's the title of the episode.
Yeah,
right?
They're gonna
consoles
wanna-
are good.
No, once they've played it, they're like, hey, I can build a gaming PC for $700 or buy one. Doesn't matter. They're really inexpensive to get into, and now I'm not paying this fee to Google or whoever, and I've got a better experience, higher resolution.
It's funny the number of people who I know specifically who bought a gaming PC or
called
Origin or whatever to get a gaming PC because they wanted to play PUBG.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Specialized.
Yeah, it turns out like one of the guys I play with every night had played console games his whole life, saw somebody playing PUBG and was like, "Oh man, this Murder Island thing seems good."
That sounds
funny.
wrong, but yeah, I mean most of the and I say this, I always troll Elaine about it. But I have nephews. They were console players, and once they went PC, they never went back.
Do you have a Switch in your house?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what happens if your kid
No.
comes home with a console,
Yeah.
Gordon?
No, why? What are you talking about?
He
Yeah,
loves
what,
consoles.
What if he decides to come home one day and he's like, "Dad, I got a console. I know you're upset."
If
But,
you raise your children right, it's not going to happen.
What if he wants to get like one of those mini ones and like hack it and put a bunch of other ROMs? Like he wants to get a NES Classic or something.
I mean, that's probably okay for a retro kind of gaming thing.
Okay.
I mean, kids always want, and Elena thinks I'm insane, but I say, and I've seen this, if you take a kid, you put down a tablet, iPad, because there's no other tablets currently. You put a tablet, a console, or a gaming PC in front of them,
Yeah.
and they're familiar with all three, the gaming PC is going to be where it's at.
Maybe. My daughter plays a lot of Minecraft on the Switch.
My daughter too.
But that's
well,
just 'cause
she
it's
plays that on
convenient.
PC.
Yeah.
Whoa, comparing
Well, yeah,
daughters here.
once you get them to WASD, it's
I mean, I only have one PC in the house that I'm usually occupied.
see that's what's up with that.
I mean, I have one gaming PC in the house.
you gotta.
I have like 7 PCs in the house.
We basically run a miniature LAN party at our house every day. It feels like so.
I can run. I did set up for 4 people to play Rec Room in the house a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So I have enough headsets. This is shameful. This is bad. Yeah, I have enough headsets to play 4. Yeah. Anyway,
I just
Elitist.
think but the mouse and keyboard. I mean, it seems like nothing's. That's the one thing PC is going to have.
we started on mouse and keyboard recently with my 6-year-old. She's into it. She's like, Dad,
So,
this is
yeah.
how you play games. I was like, well, sometimes I use a gamepad too.
You're supposed to say that's the correct way to play games.
Look, I'm agnostic. I don't buy into your culture wars, Gordon.
It's not a culture war. It's
Seems like
because
a
they've been
culture
trying to
war.
kill us.
You've been telling me for years that playing console games is evil and it's going to result in me, the gates opening beneath me, falling straight down into the console users' special dominion.
I had a conversation, and I don't want to. I'm trying not to give away because private conversations you don't want to give away. But I did a panel with Pedro from PCMR.
So you just said you're not going to give away who this person was, and then you immediately
But
outed
I'm
them.
going to say who it is, but I don't want to give away all of the conversation.
Okay.
But I was enough that he was like, he almost was like, well, don't you ever want to extend an olive branch, Gordon? I'm like, no.
Look,
And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I realize I'm actually the angry person in the internet.
you're the
because
last
that's just me.
iconoclast. Yeah. Even Stapes has he plays
Stapleton
console
from IGN.
yeah,
No.
Dan Stapleton.
Yeah,
He's the reviews editor. He has to play other games.
Yeah, it's because you know why?
because he likes to
Well,
get paid.
Smooth 30 frames a second. Smooth.
Look, man,
30.
my PS4 Pro gives me 50 to 60 when I'm playing Spider-Man. So it's
Does it really? Well,
on medium 4K settings.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I'm going to go and tell you when I lit up that Spider-Man game on the PS4 Pro and I realized that they'd done cube maps for every window in New York. So like it looks like you can look into the windows as you're swinging by. It's not just a texture.
Okay.
It's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not.
I mean, it's great. I'm so glad is that cell shaded or that get that cell architecture in that PS4?
No, they got rid of that because it was a disaster. It's a
What?
APU.
Is that made by ARM or
Are you complaining
Apple?
about something from 10 years ago now?
No, I'm
15?
just saying the PS4 uses what hardware?
A custom AMD chip, I believe.
Yeah, see, it's basically a PC.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Xbox doesn't because they got custom hardware too.
No.
Oh no.
No.
that's
Look,
not
they all did. They all went the right way.
Oh my God, I am responsible for the culture wars, Will.
You're the problem. Hey, which one's better, AMD or Intel?
You know what's awesome?
We just made a video about
is
that.
they
actually.
both the greatness they enable the greatness of the PC. That's what I say. That's why I
How
love them
magnanimous
both.
of you, Gordon. How magnanimous.
No, but I was fair. I said, for most people 2700X. I know you have you and your video encoding thing. You want to bring it up, Will?
Not anymore. I don't do it anymore.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The
But
thing
you-
is, the
you have
quad
a
cores are
thing-
fast enough.
Okay. But I'm just saying you don't like the aim. I'm not gonna
X264 had some
okay.
problems with the Threadripper early on. It seems like maybe they've worked them out.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just like my machine's just like my old gaming machine becomes the streaming PC, and then my old streaming PC becomes the home server. So basically, I have a 8-year-old CPU in the garage that's probably costing me $30 a month of electricity to run, running a free NAS box.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to do that one of these days.
It's. I would just buy a Synology at this point.
I'm sad because I always tell people this. I have like 4 dead NAS boxes at home that
Yeah.
I need to recover all the files off
It's
of.
hopeless.
I know they're not. There's a reason they're consumer grade hardware. They're often not made to run 24/7 for.
Why would you
3
build a
years.
NAS that's not designed to run 24/7?
Well, I don't know because I've had fans fail, I've had boards fail. I don't know, and then like, oh, good luck, unkinking that spaghetti RAID system
Well,
from
yeah.
some, unknown build of Linux where the guy moved to the
Yeah.
Himalayas or something, or forget it.
Anytime you see a NAS that says we use our own custom file system, run.
Will, there's this old AMD versus Intel
Oh, no.
talk. Are you aware of Intel making discrete GPU or working on discrete GPUs?
I had a conversation at a cocktail party last year or the year before with people from the Larrabee team.
Okay, that must.
Well, because like this was just when the machine learning stuff was starting to fire up, and I was like, "Hey, you were on the Larrabee team. You briefed me about this like 14 years ago." And I was like, "What? What the hell, man? You guys were there. You had it." And they were like, "Come up to Oregon sometime, and we'll talk." So I when Intel makes a GPU that's worth using for VR and other things, like Intel's GPU efforts have always been really interesting, and then they kill them right before they get to the point that they're usable. And they often, like, because their focus is selling billions of chips and not hundreds of thousands or millions of chips, often their focus is like 2 years behind where it needs to be in order to succeed.
They are serious this time. I have to say, with
How many times have we heard that?
I know that's why I'm
750 in like 1994,
very i740.
740, 752.
Yeah, 752, and which
then-
was the same thing.
You clocked up a little bit, more
And-
registers.
And then Larrabee.
And then Larrabee, and then Intel Extreme Graphics, all of which have been very serious entries in the consumer graphics space.
Ultra HD graphics. UHD 6. This baby has a UHD 620 in it.
Hey, how many frames do you get in PUBG on that thing?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Like you run it like 720p.
Yeah. That's. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical. I'm hopeful that Intel can pull it off because competition's good for the market.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very skeptical. I mean, I saw i740 fail, i752 fail. Larrabee just never even came out to fail.
Yeah,
So
it didn't have the opportunity to reach its full potential of failure.
It didn't even come out. It's like that's just bad news. It's like oh, we're gonna get on the field. Hey, wait, where are they? And they didn't even show up. They're
But I mean, the thing is, if they had pushed on with Larrabee, then they would have been in a position to have a massive massively parallel machine learning CPU or processing unit, which it turns out is what's funded in NVIDIA's business for the last few years.
Right.
Like there turned out we didn't know what the market was at the time that they killed that. They looked at it and were like, well, we don't know what the market is. 10 years later, there's an enormous market. It's an infinite market. Compute is trending toward free.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
to be fair, too, I can imagine, Intel is a huge company. I've always felt you have, like looking back to the original RAM bus, DRAM wars, you have different, like all kingdoms, there are different fiefdoms within the kingdom. And I'm sure someone said, look, we make all our money off x86.
Yeah.
If we push forward Larrabee, this just validates what NVIDIA is trying to do. Right.
But I mean, I don't even know if NVIDIA was, it was a weird, it's goofy.
Yeah.
Intel's challenging. I can't, they have a new CEO, so who knows what they're going to do now.
Yeah. And who knows? They are, I will say, I'm taking them very seriously these days. They've done a lot of strategic hires, things that are
a lot of hires.
A lot of hires,
Yeah.
very outside the box. I mean, Tom Peterson's over there now.
Yeah. The thing is, they have to do. They can't just. It's really clear that they can't just rest on their process technology being really good anymore.
Yeah. No, because that's
It's
clearly
done. Yeah.
we're
We've reached the
pushing
limit.
the quantum singularity, right? And
Yeah. So they have to do something if they want to maintain market share. And I mean, I'm really interested to see what the new CEO does.
yeah, we'll see. But I would we'll see, right? I think Intel, they've had two blanks. They got to prove it. This one, it's got to do it, or I don't know. What if this fails though? That's a scary thing.
I mean, if this fails, then they keep making CPUs until ARM's price per performance per watt, till the performance gets up to the point that the performance per watt matters, and then
I'm sorry. Did you say ARM?
So here's the thing, Gordon. Like, if you can license the ARM architecture and then jam your own business in there to do exactly what you want, I've lost him.
No, sorry. Because I've been drinking coffee. Because sometimes people talk about ARM competing with x86, and then
Well, look, I called this one in 2010 or 2012. Apple is going to move MacBooks to ARM.
no way,
100%.
no way.
100%.
Well, look, I know they have plans. I know it's already. They could roll it out tomorrow if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I don't.
The keyboards aren't bad enough for an ARM computer yet. That's what they're working on, making the keyboards even worse.
I just don't. And I've said this before. I've been on the Macworld podcast, and I've said that I think if Apple does ARM-based MacBook, it's the end of the Mac.
I would say that the terrible keyboard is the end of the Mac.
Dude, people still buy them anyway. You know how people fix their MacBooks with bad keyboards?
You use an
They go
external
out and
keyboard.
They go out and they buy a brand new MacBook. That's the way it's always been. I had a friend, he got a CD stuck because they only use those slot-fed.
I like the slot fed.
It's slot-fed, but with no ejection button.
Well, that
slot,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it turns out in
Right?
retrospect,
He's like, well, I needed to buy a new laptop anyway. Seriously, all they had to do was put a hole in the cabinet to push the ejection arm with it.
so
That's the same people who are just going to go out and buy a brand. Look, folks, this is not a MacBook, okay? It's not a MacBook. You can't do that.
Man, that's so flat. Well, anyway, this is a long-standing debate.
I know. Come on. There's no way that they can survive going to ARM. I think the MacBook. I think Apple's, if anybody can make people go with them one more trip across the plains, Apple's the only company that can do it. But I
Yeah.
do think the Mac as we know it will cease to exist.
I mean, I think the fact that they haven't had a new Mac Pro in like 12 years or whatever it's been now. I know they announced one. It's going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be terrific.
Nope.
All of the people who are doing work that used an old Mac Pro. I mean,
Like me.
I can't help but notice there's no trash cans in here.
No. No. And those, we don't even.
Yeah, I use one box for Skype and one box to stream to OBS.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think if you look at the amount of money Apple has spent spinning up its ARM CPU division makes me think that and the fact that they've been frustrated with the amount of GPU on Intel CPUs for years
Sure.
makes me think that, hey, they're going to take their own SoC, jam whatever massive GPU they want in, use whatever CPU they need to run their apps, and then put some specialized hardware in to accelerate the things that they care about.
I just have a hard time because it's about legacy. Like, I still think if you're
It's
a
not.
Mac,
They ditch legacy all the time. They throw it out all the time. You can't
Apple,
run.
that's the best thing. That's why it makes Apple so strong.
Yeah.
And it's also horrible because for us, people complain about, oh my God, I can't run something from 1997.
I've
on
never
this thing.
complained about that.
Well, people do, right? They're
Literally
like, I
never.
can't
Gordon does all the time.
Yeah, but
Apple
Gordon's-
has no
Gordon-
problems. Like, you know
Anecdote.
what? For the good of the colony, you
Yeah.
are leaving the colony. Go outside the gates. But I'll die out there. Yeah, but it's good for us.
Sorry, Quark
right?
Express.
They basically they strengthen the pool, but to be the person forced out through the gates of the colony to die in the cold all the time, like those Xeons over there, those Xeon Max,
Yeah.
you could still run OS 10 on them.
No, you
They
can't.
just well, you could if they didn't
No,
just
they
turn
choose-
it off.
No, they choose not to allow
Right?
that.
I mean, they do it all the time because they want to make it stronger. But
The ants on the outside of the ball have to die so the ants in the center can live.
I just don't want to be the like. Yeah, I that's a horrible way to live. The PC's like, you know what? We're gonna let. Hey, you know what? All the hate about Microsoft, all the haters, take a step back and think about how Microsoft doesn't cut people off. People are still angry about
Yeah.
Windows 7 support.
Let me think about the loving embrace of this multi-billion-dollar
It's
faceless international
no, but I'm.
company.
Hey, at least you're not being told. At least you're not being told. It's like I can't imagine being in that division at Microsoft. It's like, come on, man. It's a Pentium 2, man. It's a Pentium 2. You still want to run Windows 10 on there? Look, come on, can't we leave it? No. If you do, I'm going to be angry. I'm going to go on Twitter. I'm going to post on it. But they
Oh
okay,
no,
all
the
right.
Twitter posts.
But they
Oh
don't,
no,
right? But
somebody's saying something bad on Twitter.
but it still runs on Pentium 2, Pentium 3. I mean,
but-
no,
but why?
Apple's cutting off Xeon.
Why? You can buy a laptop for $200.
Because it's about legacy. It's not.
No,
It's
legacy's bad.
It's about keeping everybody. You know, I can't imagine that Walking Dead episode that runs down at Apple every day, where they're like, yeah, well, you know, we're going to dispatch you now. Well,
Look,
why?
look.
I was a good character.
Look.
People love me.
I have my AirPod 1s are probably going to explode in like 3 months so that I have to go buy a new pair. They've served me well. It's their time. I mean, look,
Are
there's
you
a bunch
really
of-
going to buy a new pair when they die?
Hell no. There's a lot of stuff that actually I might because I use them to take phone calls. This is terrible. They made a pair of Bluetooth. They made a Bluetooth headset, like a Bluetooth. What did we use? Do we call it headset?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Bluetooth headset.
Yeah, they made a Bluetooth headset that works.
I have a Bluetooth
That's all I use
headset
it
that
for.
works.
No, you don't. You think you do?
No, it works great.
No, it always sounds bad when I talk to you.
No, I don't use it. I actually have
It
one.
sounds great for you. It's terrible for me.
So I have one that I use for phones. It's a Jabra. I don't even know if they make it anymore. But you fold the.
No, they haven't made Bluetooth headsets in a long
Yeah,
time.
they still make them.
But they make
yeah.
the thing the sport buds.
Yeah, those are all terrible. But this is an actual one for this is like what a business person would wear to make multi-billion-dollar deals.
Yeah, that's what I use. That's
like,
what I need.
You got to be standing on the street of Manhattan,
Yeah.
shouting stuff out with that headset. I have that for phone calls.
I don't care what Johnson says.
care.
Close the deal.
We need to get that
That's my life.
to what was that again? Poo.
Arpuda.
Arpuda.
Arput.
I want to see Gordon say that on the street.
Arpuda. Come on, that's just you could just see that, right? Looking at the Rolex, you got the briefcase or whatever, business person, and you're just like
that's what they call
close
me.
a deal.
Carrying around my Rolex every day.
But
That's how
sir,
I live my
we
life.
can't. Those people just bought those MacBooks. We can't tell people to throw away MacBook Airs they bought in 2017. Close a deal.
Look, they've probably already thrown them in the bay because the keyboard doesn't work.
For the good of the colony, your MacBook Air is being discontinued.
It's like an
by-
episode of Survivor. Johnny Ive walks around the Apple office and it's like, well, okay, Mac Pros, you're done. Shutting you down.
Well, but
You're the weakest link.
they're going to do it though. They've said, "Hey,
The
we're
tribe
going to
has
do Mac
spoken.
Pro. We're going to do Mac Pro." They
Where
said
is
we're
it?
gonna-
Is it out yet?
Nope.
Doesn't count then.
Won't come out yet. No.
It's not real until it ships.
I don't understand
Just like
this.
VR.
I don't understand why it takes so long to do basically to call up Taiwan or call up China, Taiwan and say, build this computer, ship it over here, make it so.
So the reason it's taken so long is because they sacked all the people that made the Mac Pro like 5 years ago when they stopped making them, and now they have to go find new people.
And they're probably over-engineering the hell out of it. I tell
Yeah.
the Macworld people, I'm like, listen, give me the same cheese grater design, just with new internals. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
that's all
fine.
I
That's
want.
all I want. But
Yeah.
guess what? They're probably there, trying to design the hell out of it. And it's just
Yeah.
like, that's not what I want.
Yeah, no, that's going to be
yeah,
really,
that's
really good
what
for three
I
people.
don't understand. I would just, if for our Apple, I would just say, let's just take the Mac Pro, scale it down, maybe 2/3, a little
I
smaller.
don't even care.
Make all the parts industry standard.
Yeah.
That's
Go ahead.
Madness.
I know, but just say, and then look, we're going to make this. We'll issue new BIOS updates so you can do new CPUs, whatever. And then just don't bother us for 5 years. Come back in 5 years and ask for a new one. And then people will be happy.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
They have to find somebody who can solder all the RAM on the motherboards.
You know what's crazy about those? So people don't even know. I mean, it's a marvel of engineering, but you don't need to rebuild the wheel every time. The graphics cards and some of those Mac Pros, on the towers, the cheese graters, you don't plug them into the power supply. You plug them into the motherboard.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah,
there was never power pins.
They run very small, like I've never like some kind of whatever reduced power connector, and then you would plug that into your graphics card. So the power is routed through the motherboard out to your graphics card.
How noisy?
Well,
it has to be really noisy for everything around it on the board, right?
But and also think about carrying 150 watts or whatever you need.
You don't need to.
It eliminates the wire.
Lower power.
You don't have there's not the messy wireness. I can appreciate the engineering push to do something that way, but it's like it's okay to just have some messy wires running through there.
So on the cheese graters, is it still like a mirror image? Is it chirally mirrored from the real PC ATX spec? Because on the old candy box ones, everything was backwards. Like in order to orient the board right, you'd have to mirror image it to put in a regular case. Or if you wanted to use one of those as a case for a normal PC, it just wouldn't work because everything was the wrong way on the boards.
Well, yeah, because the CPU and then the GPU slots are facing down.
Yeah, it's weird.
I honestly don't know because there have been so many generations of them, and I admit it is a marvel of beauty and engineering, but.
Bad for
just no
dust,
point.
though, it turns out.
Well, it's also bad for end user, especially if you're going to ignore them, which is the problem.
Ask all those Final Cut Pro 7 users out there how they feel.
That's where
Sorry, I didn't mean
that's
to
where
dig
I
up bad
started.
things.
That's where I started. Yeah.
And there you go.
Anyway,
we could talk about this all day.
But we should probably get to some questions.
Oh yes.
Will, we've got a couple ones for you. We got Northern Tech Hermit over on our Discord. You can get some questions in on our Discord. He's talking about gaming with your daughter. You had mentioned the introducing her to the PC. When she becomes of the age that you would like to get her a PC, would you rather build a custom one with her, or do you think you would give her a hand-me-down? What would you do for your daughter?
She'd probably start with a hand-me-down at first, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I still build my own PCs. I've never bought a desktop PC that I can remember. I bought a Wang in 1993 when I went to college. So 386SX25. Wow. That was maybe, no, that's not true. I bought a Pentium 60. So it's been 20 years since I bought a PC, 25 years. I think we'd probably build something or cobble something together with hand-me-down parts, whatever. The games that we're playing now don't really need anything to run. Like we play Minecraft and we play Ultimate Chicken Horse, stuff like that. So, if she decides she wants to get into shooty games, then we'll figure that out when we get there, but she's still pretty early for that.
What I'm not really sure was when you introduce to your kids how to properly yell at all your teammates and everybody in the game.
Yeah, I asked her not to be racist or
angry, I said B, you should gone to B.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's she listens to me playing games. She's like, Dad sounds angry. And I said, no. Mom says, no, he's not angry. He's just it's a heated moment.
Yeah.
It's all an act.
Yeah, it's all a bit.
It's the magic of TV.
Yeah,
it's social.
Got to keep
kids.
it kayfabe.
It's social for kids. They just want to play with their schoolmates.
Exactly. So yeah, like Fortnite is popular with the older kids. She's still too young for that, probably, but she plays Minecraft and we play sometimes with friends. So it's good.
Nice. And then somebody else brought up, and I'm sorry I missed your name. The chat went too quick. About your PC. Would you? And we were talking about this earlier. Would you be interested in like a water build system? Do you know how deep do you go in building your PCs?
Yeah. So right now I have closed loop systems on the CPU. Probably if I next time I upgrade the video card, I'm going to do a water cool, maybe a closed loop for the GPU, maybe a custom loop. But yeah, I think it's time. I stream PUBG more or less every night now, and I've built enough of a community around that it's like I feel like I should probably invest in a slightly better computer at some point before too long. And yeah, like a water cool rig seems nice. I honestly though, I've also reached the point where like my half the one memory channel in my FreeNAS box just died for no apparent reason the other day. It's an old computer. It's 6 years old at this point, so we're at the end of that machine. And I might be tired of fooling. I feel like it might be nice to, when something breaks, to just call somebody and be like, "Hey, tell me what to do to fix this."
Yeah. That's nice.
I know that's like, yeah, it's a little harder to build your own PCs when you don't have like the opportunity to just truck it in when it breaks and try a bunch of different hardware in the lab to figure out what's broken.
Yeah. Agreed.
I do always keep a spare power supply around.
Spare power supply, yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
Extra RAM.
Spare power supply. I have an old video card or two in the garage if I need to swap them out to see when something breaks.
Yeah, PCs are pretty bulletproof these days. Although I say that knowing people that have just like had the unsolvable failures that I've not figured out what's going on with them.
So that USB thing took me a year and a half to figure out. Like it finally, I was talking to somebody, and I was calling friends at ASUS and all the different places, Intel. Finally, somebody at Intel was like, "Hey, you know that you can only have 128 devices on the USB chain, right?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" There's no error message in Windows. It just says this device didn't work. It doesn't say, "Hey, you have too many endpoints. Move it to a different bus." And you can't tell which buses are connected to which ports on most motherboards usually.
No.
So you have to like load device manager and do device by connection, and then like drill down into that. But like I wouldn't have found that like that would have happened to a pre-built machine too.
But if you just ran a discrete part, but you can in your machine, but a discrete part would have solved it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I had a USB 3.1 machine that had real drivers, I could theoretically plug in like one of those USB-C to like a USB hubs that has its own USB controller off stream that would fix that problem too. Okay. It's a weird problem, but like as the hardware gets more advanced and as people are connecting more stuff to it, you're going to have more of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got a VR related question for you, Will.
Okay.
This is from Luke. They are sensitive to motion sickness. Are any of the newer VR headsets better for that?
So I've done hundreds and hundreds of VR, like 500-600 VR demos at least. I stopped counting when I hit 500. Mostly introducing people to VR for the first time. In my experience, out of all those demos, I've had 2 people that get almost motion sick almost immediately. One of them was my wife. One of them was a friend of our friend Veronica Belmont. It tends to affect women more, VR sickness. The things that keep you from getting sick are never moving the camera when your head's not moving. So, keeping your inner ear and your eyes in sync will solve that problem. And if you've tried 3D OF headsets like Gear VR, Daydream, Google Cardboard, Oculus Go, those are 3D OF headsets. So those measure rotation and orientation, but not translational movement forward, backward, left, right, up, down. I put Gina in the Vive Pro with the wireless kit on the other day for the first time in ages, and she didn't get sick. Usually she gets kind of the cold sweats and stuff like that, and she played for 45 minutes or an hour with no problems. So I think more solid frame rate, higher CPU, higher GPU, all that stuff will help with that. But try it and don't buy anything from someplace you can't return it. And if you haven't tried VR, there's no analog between like getting motion sick in the car and getting motion sick in VR.
I got another VR question. Sorry to follow on. If you had to make a choice based on hardware available today, which would you buy?
Probably I'd buy one of the Rifts. I mean, just because you can play everything that's on Steam works with the Rift. It's a pain in the ass to play Oculus stuff on the Vive. You have to use Revive, and it's a little fraught.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the Vive hardware better. I think it's more comfortable. It's also way more expensive.
Yeah,
is the other thing. Yeah. So, actually, I forget about the Windows MR stuff. The Windows MR headsets are really good, and you can find those Lenovo headsets for like $200 with the controllers, which is a smoking deal. There's no external base stations. Can I change my answer? I'd probably buy a Windows MR headset.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to set up the external sensors. It's a lot easier to run. Their min spec is a little bit lower, so you can play some of the stuff like Minecraft and stuff on a lower end PC, and it works. And you can play everything Steam with the Windows MR controllers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really unexpected.
I might wait until I see what Valve has next month or whenever their date was.
Yeah, I think they said May 1st is the leaked press date.
Or May 19th.
May something.
May something.
I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised because people,
Wait, are
Windows
you
mixed
confirming
reality-
Half-Life 3?
Yeah,
next
Half-Life
month? Is
3
that what
comes
you're
out
saying?
May 19th.
Nice.
Gordon Freeman returns.
Perfect.
Right? The logo is just going to be HL with 3 crowbars.
That's a good one.
Also,
would
Left
be
4 Dead
good.
3 comes out on the same day, and Portal 3. It's going to be the
333.
They're calling it the
three-peat.
3-pack. It's
a
coming
9.
out on March 3rd,
It's the 9.
2023.
That would be a good one.
Maybe. It could be 3003, I guess.
I feel like mixed reality doesn't get the respect from people. I mean, maybe it's because most of the VR people are just sort of like they are such experts and so sort of snobs. You could be fair to say.
I mean, the thing is, the hardware is really solid. The screens are often better than the default Vive, definitely better than the original Rift. The problem is that the controllers are kind of flimsy compared to the other two, and the tracking's not as good because whoop,
There it goes.
Like that.
Whoops.
That's cool. It seems so real when you knock that cup off the table.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got it.
It's out of the way. We're safe.
Will, for audio listeners, Will just knocked over a cup to demonstrate how excited he is about the
I love
controllers.
Windows MR. Yeah, so the controllers don't track as well when you get outside of the range of the cameras.
Yeah.
Which is only, but I mean, that doesn't, most of the time you're using your hands, it's where you can see them, so it works out.
Cool.
Okay, more questions. Game Bacardi on YouTube is asking if you've ever met John Carmack, and I don't know why.
I have met John Carmack. We interviewed him a couple of times at Maximum PC. I feel like I interviewed him at QuakeCon. One time we sat down at E3. When was it? It was maybe right after Bethesda bought them and talked for an hour about VR. And it was for Maximum PC, so we didn't really have a place to put the audio, so I just had to transcribe it in my hotel room, which I'm going to go and tell you, the worst place to transcribe a John Carmack interview is in a hotel room in Los Angeles at like 3 o'clock in the morning when you have an 8 o'clock meeting the next day, and you're like, oh, that I would say that's on MaximumPC.com, but I don't think that exists anymore, right?
I don't think so either.
It's maybe
But-
on archive.org. I
Maybe-
think they scrapped all
but
of
we
that
do
stuff.
have this. Maximum
know-
PC soundboard.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You can find. I used to go to Google Books to find old episodes or old issues of Maximum PC these days.
Those are Jeremy Williams created stingers, by the way. Props to Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. All right. This is kind of a game question from Old Man Brian. We've had the sci-fi era, the Call of Duty shooter-like era, the MOBA era, the zombie era, and now the Battle Royale era. What are your predictions for the next gaming fad?
Wow. Next
Dust.
gaming fad.
Dust 2. It'll be Dust 2.
Is Dust the
It's the survival one.
It's that
Oh.
never-ending hallway in Counter-Strike. It's just like that's all they do. Is play Dust 2.
I thought you were talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
What's the space sim from Iceland? Didn't they have a shooter called Dust 459 or
Yeah.
Dust 369 or something
Yeah,
like
you're
that?
talking about
Dust
the one with the
420?
big economy.
Yeah.
Oh god, I can't think of the name.
Wow.
Right, whatever.
People are screaming.
Yes.
Screaming at their radios. I think that the next one is going to be kind of it's going to be hug based gaming. So
There we go.
yeah, you're going to have to hug your opponents, and the person who gets the most hugs wins. It's the next big trend.
What they should do for gaming is they should introduce at the beginning of if your kids play sports,
EVE
before every
Online.
game, they
you.
have a kid come up, the whole team and the coaches and the refs stand there, and then they read the card saying, "Parents, shut the hell up. This is a game. We're playing the game. Just watch the game. Don't comment on the game. Clap for the game." That's what they should do for all video games.
We just started Little League, and I'm really surprised by how little yelling there is.
Well, that's because they've been learned. Like, parents, shut up.
Well, I'm talking about the coaches. Like the coaches, like when I played Little League, I got yelled at all the time. It was like, hustle up, Smith. You're never gonna bat if you don't keep your eyes on the. It was just constant belittle. I can't even think.
Yeah.
I can't even say the things that they
Yeah,
said to me
right.
on the podcast.
It was
But
a different time.
yeah, now they're like, hey, you're doing a really good job.
Hey,
man.
you know what? We're
No.
gonna give you a trophy anyway. You did your
Look,
best.
No.
look. If they swing too many times at coach pitch, they don't like send them back to the dugout and shame. They bring out the tee, so they fire them off the tee ball
Wow. Okay.
thing now. So yeah, it's a kinder, gentler world out there. It's a good
right.
thing.
Okay.
This is good.
There's still yelling. Let me tell you, there's yelling coaches, and then
Yeah,
there's
okay.
I already did my work, and ain't nothing I can do now, coaches.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, do you want to take some really deep PC questions? So, that more pointed towards Gordon, but
we should talk about it. I'd like to hear Will's opinion.
well,
I have opinions.
Okay. So Big Mama, friend of the show, Big Mama, why are the Xeon Platinum 9200 family BGA only? Maybe the socket contact problems with the 5903 pins. Your thoughts on pushing server CPU TDP to 400 plus watts?
Wow, that is really outside.
You want me to take that one?
That is
Yeah,
really
you can
deep.
take that. That one's
Whatever
for
Gordon
Will.
says is right.
No, that is just so we don't really cover server stuff.
That's the big news, though.
I don't
Is it?
know.
Well, as of this week.
Okay.
I'm sure
Everything
there's
changes.
engineering reasons for why they went to BGA, and they probably make sense for maybe, again, as the things you mentioned, heat, thermal power, all the things you have to do over BGA. That has been done in laptops.
Is it-
consumer laptops?
Is it
have all been
BGA soldered onto the board? Is that what's happening?
Ball
Oh,
grid
okay.
array. So they're apparently, I've not paid attention because Xeon is not really consumer part, except for that one part. I'm gonna imagine they did that because we needed to. It's not like Intel goes like, oh, we're going to solder this down to the motherboard because we want you to pay for a new motherboard. Frankly, if it's a $100,000 server, they don't care anyway. It's not like a big deal.
Right.
So
Like you're not pulling blades out and swapping the CPUs and the blades.
my guess is maybe they did it for Z height, maybe they did it for thermals, for power. There's a lot of reasons why they would do it, and they have pretty excessive core count, so probably makes sense.
What's the core? Like 32 cores?
I think they announced a 56 core part yesterday.
Wow.
Or was it 2 days ago?
Yeah, it was a couple days
I
ago.
haven't paid too much attention to it because
Yeah, servers.
nobody cares till AMD does it at Computex. 64 cores. No, I'm just kidding.
56 cores.
Yeah, 56 cores.
It's a weird number of cores.
112 threads.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't think they're doing this just like, how everybody, all desktop users are always angry that they're trying to take the socket away from us. So,
I mean, but
I don't think that's why they would do
like the
that.
number of times I've replaced a CPU, like upgraded a CPU and a new motherboard over the last 10 years, it is none.
But you can.
But you know what? I might be the
Well, you have
unusual
that
use
6
case
core
here.
part. You could put a 10 core part if you had a
I'm
spare
fine.
$1,700 and $23.
I'm fine. I'm okay. If I was going to spend $1,700.23 on something, I'd probably buy a 2080 Ti and a water cooling block, and then have $100 left over.
Yeah.
A responsible purchase.
For me, I always want a socket. I like upgrades. I like the options.
I want it to just work
Serviceability.
without me having to fool with it at all once I build it.
That would be
It
an
just works.
interesting proposition if someone said, we're going to sell you a motherboard with the CPU integrated in it. It's going to come with a 10-year guarantee. The caps are not going to fail. The VRMs are not going to. This is the thing is
Like this, the mechanical connectors on the slots are good. The
Right.
whole thing.
So, maybe people would go for that. I don't know. I think most people still, especially desktop people, they like their options.
I mean,
So-
it is nice to know that if your CPU dies, which they never do anymore, but if it does die, then you can swap it out for another one.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I'm hearing a lot more CPU failures than before. It used to be like you would never hear of a CPU failure, but I have been hearing of more CPU failures.
For me, it's been motherboard failures. But usually by the time the motherboard fails, you're better off just, rather than going and buying a new motherboard and new memory, because you kind of replace those at the same time, you're better off just buying a whole new thing because it's going to cost the same.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, this was a big conspiracy theory about 5 years ago. Everybody said Intel was trying to kill the socket.
Man, it started with socket 7, man.
Well,
Remember when they
Broadwell.
brought in those slots?
Yeah,
I used to be able to put an AMD CPU and an Intel CPU in the same motherboard.
People
but then
don't
the man
remember that.
came
That's
and they
just-
took away my socket freedom.
Yeah.
First
And
they come for our sockets, Gordon.
I will say those are
Then
some.
they come for the slots.
Those were some messy days too. People just have no idea. There were some messy days back then. We're
Remember-
like, yeah, it kind of works sometimes.
If you're
but I have
lucky-
an SIS chipset. Yeah,
That's your first mistake.
yeah.
A couple more hardware questions. SSS on YouTube. Do you think we will get a Navi announcement at Computex? Have you ever been to Computex, Will?
No, I never got to go.
Oh,
No,
this will be my first time, actually.
At Future, we didn't have the money to send anybody ever.
Yeah. Is it?
I think you went a couple times after I left.
I
once they got me
actually
off the
have only
payroll.
gone the last couple of years.
Okay.
For PC World, and it's a great show. It's a better PC show than probably any other show, even than than CES because everybody's there and it's all
CS is a
concentrated.
trash fire at this point.
But there's a lot of people there. I'm going to say I have no insight. I don't know, but I'm going to guess this is going to be. I think we're going to see Navi there. I mean, I sort of think people expected that. Huh?
What is that?
Oh, that is a next gen, actual next gen AMD GPU.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully,
Everyone's waiting for Navi. Will,
there were
how
some
did you not
rumors-
know?
I really don't ever.
You should be waiting for Navi.
I'm pretty comfortable. I think Navi will come when Navi's ready.
it'll be die shrink and a new architecture.
Okay.
And then there have been leaked rumors that it's going to do ray tracing. So
Cool.
we'll see. We'll see.
Functional,
I don't know.
usable technology.
But it is a lot.
2019.
I think it's going to be an awesome year for AMD. Clearly, next gen Ryzen's coming. We're going to see Threadripper next gen. I kind of wonder.
I do like ripping threads.
I do like ripping threads. So I would say, yeah, maybe, but that is a lot. That is a lot to manage.
Yeah, that'd
for
be a lot of
small
news.
company, relatively small company like AMD.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A couple more questions. I actually like this. Somebody named themselves in our Discord channel. The name is In This Episode of The Full Nerd. Because Gordon always says that. With SSDs having a lower price, when do you expect an SSD factory to have a nuclear explosion or burn to the ground?
Oh,
The prices are just so low.
It's
you know?
earthquakes. It's always earthquakes.
Yeah, true.
Earthquakes
it won't
get the
happen.
memory people.
there's too many people making SSDs. I think.
You
This
think we're
isn't-
safe?
This isn't like hard drives where like Thailand had a flood and it wiped out a third of the world. I mean, the thing is, we're making a lot of them, but probably we're using way more. We're using a large percentage of that capacity.
Yeah, I think it'll. I think it's not going to go away. And this speaks back to the even older folks will remember the glue fire. There was a glue
Yeah.
fire for RAM, and RAM just went through the roof and didn't come down forever.
A
So,
megabyte of RAM cost $100 back then.
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
A megabyte.
1 megabyte.
So no, I don't think it's going to happen. I know like people like the conspiracy theories, but if you are from Kingston or Intel and you're telling people, oh, you need to stock up, there might be a run up, then yeah, please do, because they'd love it if you bought 10 drives instead of 1.
There you go.
I mean, how many SSDs do you have in your machine now?
3.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm at 4, I think, but
Yeah.
2 of them are rated.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make them twice as reliable. They're not RAID 1, they're RAID 0.
Of course, the SSDs never fail.
Yeah.
Will SSDs
It's
never
fine.
fail?
They're going to be fine.
Man, we've been going on so long. I got to go potty.
So, all right. Well,
Oh,
one
yeah.
last question
Okay.
from Old Man Brian. It's VR related. All the new VR headsets coming out are inside-out trackers. There's nothing new that has full body capabilities. Do you think they are still coming this year, or are companies moving away from them for a period of time because they're too niche?
I don't think anybody wants full body tracking for
No?
a consumer.
You don't think so?
I don't think you need it. I mean, you need
Well, but I
hands.
saw Ready Player One. He gets into, he gets into a big suit, right? You know?
I mean, look, I kind of want the butt kicker, right? Like I want the thing that you put on your chest and like gives you some bass feedback when you get hit.
Oh, okay.
But I like, for the most part, when you're playing VR games, we don't need to know where you're. Nobody's made DDR for VR yet. And if we had Dance Dance Revolution for VR, you need to know where your feet are.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're probably okay. Like I don't think like if you're playing a game, if you're playing like there's a couple of games that support Vive trackers for either a gun peripheral or for your feet.
Yeah,
Like,
those little like disc things that you can put on.
yeah, it looks like a big hockey puck with
Yeah.
with flanges off the side. I mean, we use those to track feet and to track pelvis
Oh, okay.
on Foo, but they're not for normal people. I mean, they're for special uses or very like Island 35559, which is that dinosaur hunting game.
Mm-hmm.
I think supports them either for a gun peripheral or for feet. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we're at a position where that stuff needs to be out yet.
I agree.
23
Yeah.
seconds is the average time it takes a mammal to drain their bladder.
You know,
That was
field
that was
mouse? I was
actually
not
pretty
kidding.
quick.
I was
It's a
not
blue
kidding.
whale.
That was
That's a lot of
pretty
coffee
quick.
in this
What you
guy.
didn't see is he was just outside the door in the hallway. It's very awkward.
He took that GameStar mug.
Well,
Yeah.
the big question is, what do you do when you're streaming?
You just don't-
Gatorade bottle?
No,
because that's what I hear the rumors.
Look, you hit pause
Oh,
and then you walk into the other room.
how do you? You can't pause in PUBG.
I have a clip reel. It shows greatest hits. It says previously on behind the blue line.
Well, he's got to wait till the match is over.
Yeah, you wait until you're dead,
Or yeah.
or until you're in the back of the car. Sometimes,
Sorry. Okay.
like sometimes if you're in the car, you're driving. You're like, we have 2 minutes till we get where we're going. You just hope nobody shoots out your tires, or else you're gonna be sitting there dead in the car.
What's the secret? I that's it. I'm gonna stop playing the game I play. I need to become a professional PUBG player. Will Smith, what's the secret?
I'm not a professional PUBG player. First is you
well,
have to
closer than Gordon.
look. If you want to be a professional PUBG player, you had to get really, really good at Counter-Strike about 10 years ago. Are you
Okay.
really, really good at Counter-Strike? Are you a world-class Counter-Strike Go player?
I have had some really good Counter-Strike matches
Yeah.
out of the thousands.
Yeah.
So
Like,
no,
what's your percentage? Like 1/10%?
probably.
It's about where mine was.
Yeah.
This probably isn't for you. But seriously though, the people who are really, really good at PUBG are really, really good at aiming. So they're very quick. They're very quick at putting the mouse cursor on people's heads and pushing the shoot button.
Really?
Yeah. So like Shroud, the people who stream, Shroud, Choco Taco, all those guys are Disrespect. They're all former CSGO, like serious CSGO players. So like being fast is phase 1, and then phase 2 is like knowing when to shoot and when not to shoot.
I always assumed that it was just because it always felt so chunky and laggy when you're doing anything that maybe
So
it's just bad. So it's random spray and pray almost.
So the thing about that game, the thing about PUBG is that you have inertia on movement. So like if your foot animation is in mid step and you let your finger off the button, you're going to finish that step before it stops. So that's what you're feeling is lag. The aiming and stuff, like at 50 meters, it's basically Counter-Strike for SMGs and ARs and stuff like that. So the difference between PUBG and most other games is that there's they actually model recoil. And to the point that like if your CPU is slower or faster, you'll have more or less recoil because of the number of the way the recoil calculation happens per frame. So if you have more frames, you get more recoil.
Wow.
So a little bit. Yeah. There's a lot of PUBG science.
Interesting.
Wait. So
Love
doesn't that mean if you have a better CPU, you get worse?
Yeah, but you get more chances to update your mouse position. Look, the other alternative is to animate the recoil manually, so that the recoil patterns then are fixed, and then that means that somebody who's really good, your Shroud or whatever, just learns the recoil patterns and moves the mouse in exactly the pattern as they're shooting at 60 rounds per second or whatever it is for an AK, and then they can just keep the cursor on the person's head the entire time. It's much worse.
Wow.
Do they have servers only for old people? 'Cause-
Look, they do MMR, so the bad people get matched with other bad people. It'll be fine. Yeah. They didn't do that at first. At first, it was just Wild West, and like your hardened 1,000-hour killing people are in the same airplane as like the guy who's like just, hey man, I want to sign up for. I feel like I could win money in this battle royale thing. I'm gonna buy a copy of PUBG, and then he gets wrecked in the first like 8 seconds.
yeah, like half a second on the ground.
Look, it's the
They
whole thing.
land on you and kill you.
It's what Robin Williams says about Quake. Like you're gonna play that game for 100 hours before you get good.
Yeah.
Before you get even competent. And I probably wasn't decent until I hit 1,000.
God, because the game I play now, I'm up over like 4,000 matches, 5,000 matches.
Yeah.
So
You feel like you're good?
there are times, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's so team based, and I guess PUBG is not team based for the most part.
Well, if you play squads, it is. But the thing is, like Discord has solved this problem, right? Like I have about 10 Discords with people who play PUBG, and I can find a game in one of them, and I can play with people who are reasonably competent in any of them.
Oh,
Yeah. So you need better friends.
but do you have to talk to them? Because I don't want to talk to anybody else. Talk to people all day. Adam, I can talk to Adam.
Yeah, he does talk to me a
you do
lot.
have to talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
That's the unfortunate thing. You're always on.
Or the ping system, Apex.
I wish they had the ping
Yeah,
system
there
in
you go.
PUBG. That'd be great.
One last question. Sorry, it was a really good one from Oh man, I
That's
lost
a weird username. Da-da-da.
Nino. We got a lot of Linux users that follow us, and they're asking which VR headset has the best Linux support.
Don't buy Linux to play video games.
Okie doke.
Oh,
Easy peasy.
boy, and that's going to leave
Yeah.
us
Oh
something there, but
boy.
it's gonna
Wow.
burn us
Yeah,
now.
you're gonna burn down PC World with that one.
They look, performance matters so much. You're talking about frame latency of like 11 milliseconds to make people not throw up.
Mm.
You're not going to get that. Like you might, but like if you look at I think the Planetary Annihilation guys did a breakdown of their game sales versus support ticket calls on Linux versus Windows, and it's really hard to like all of the teams that are making VR games now are like 5-10 person studios for the most part. You're not going to justify spending thousands of hours developing a Linux client that's going to work on some weird subset of computers for Linux. Like if people who do that are risking the health of their companies, and they're not going to do it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so
No.
dual boot
Okay.
to Windows if you
Okay.
want to do VR
But
stuff.
yeah, I mean, I
or
don't-
buy a Quest and just don't use Linux. Don't use Windows at all.
Oh, there
But
you go.
I think people are reading. I wouldn't read too much into this because I think it's right now you need the commercial ventures to pave the way. 10 years from now, maybe, it'll be easier when everything's sort of all said and done and
I mean-
pieces are available. Maybe it's a possibility.
But the problem with the
10 is too
drivers
far.
is so like the driver situation. AMD drivers are okay on Linux. You have to use the closed source NVIDIA drivers, and like the chance of you getting all the stars aligned, like if it's a Steam VR situation, somebody's putting out a distro that's basically just for playing games. Maybe that, as far as I know, that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And I know that if I had spent $50,000 spinning up a Linux port of the stuff that we built for consumers, I would have lost $48,900 probably.
Yeah. Yeah. $999.
Yeah, I might have sold 3 copies based on my current stats.
Yeah, it's tough. You got to make money to pay for it right
No,
now.
I just want to keep the money.
Money, money, money.
It turns out money is important. Money buys time.
Apparently, yes.
Anyway, who knew?
Speaking of time, we are out of it.
Oh my God.
Oh, but
That was a great talk.
Yeah.
There's so much.
That was great.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just out of it.
Oh, it's okay.
Bad games yesterday. Bad
You
games.
seem grumpier than normal.
It's all those console players getting under your skin.
They're probably good.
I think
All those analog movement controls, they can go control precisely.
You don't know about this. I'm last word.
Oh.
I've challenged.
He's like your dad who's
Adam?
just like, you probably have heard this. Stop
I'm
me
going
if
to
you've
play
heard this
in
one.
Counter Strike. We haven't figured out yet what we're going to do. This against me versus Adam,
Uh-huh.
Luis, who's another console player.
Yeah.
Who's a and
Willis.
Willis. So it'll be 3 versus 1. So I will use mouse versus keyboard. 3 people with controllers in Counter Strike.
Do you remember the time Fatality came in and played us in Quake 2?
Yeah,
the
it
entire
was.
staff?
That's just.
That's that. You're that. You're Fatality.
Yeah.
With a mouse.
I just think that's
No,
just
it's not.
even a bad gamer like me, I will whoop all over those controllers.
You should
I
at
will
least
whoop
play.
them.
You should at least play like Fortnite or something. Like spin up a custom Fortnite server and get the 3 of them.
As long as it's not
versus one
something
of
where
you.
it has aimbot, because that's the problem with the controllers is the aimbot. There's not gaming if you get it like I get it in the general area and then it automatically moves to their head. That's not gaming. That's not gaming.
It's always great coming by, Gordon.
Yep. Good to have you.
Always terrific.
It's like a nightmare. Now Will remembers. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Every
Same
week.
way.
Yep.
We made a whole segment. For
He's
this.
gonna have wake up. He's gonna wake up tonight. Is it a nightmare? No.
I miss our conversations.
There
Yeah.
were blasts.
lots
We
of them.
had so
Yeah,
much
there are
fun.
lots of them.
Well, since AIM died, we don't talk anymore. It turns
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a
Or
good
Google
thing we
Hangouts.
started using Hangout. Oh, right. Good
bad
job
news,
there,
guys.
Google.
Where can people find you on the internet, or where would you like people to find you?
I am. If you are interested in buying animation on a commercial level, you can find me at foovr.com. If you would like to find out what I'm doing, I'm on Twitter at Will Smith, and I play PUBG and sometimes other battle royales and stuff, including Tetris 99,
Nice.
which is my favorite battle royale that came out this year.
It's actually really good.
It's fantastic.
You're
on
making that up.
It's a real thing.
No, it's a real thing.
Twitch.tv/NotThatWillSmith. And I have a new podcast coming out soon that I'm not talking about yet.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah. It's gonna
okay.
be fun.
Let us know
Awesome.
when
Yeah,
it comes out.
I will.
yeah. Awesome.
All right, I better get out of here because
Yeah.
I'm probably got to go to the bathroom again.
Old man bladder.
I know, old man. Check back next week for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. And please do leave us a review on iTunes. Every time you do, we get a cool guest like Will Smith in here. See, look, that was an actual
Hey.
positive thing
Yeah,
I
that
said.
is a good thing.
Usually
Thanks,
I'm making
Gordon.
stuff up.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Will Smith,
Hi. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
and Adam Patrick will turn us off.
Thank you so much, Will. It was a good time. We will talk to you later.
See you guys in 3 years.
Oh.